Okay, maybe we're live. I've been having tech difficulties. Let me see. We'll give it just a second to make sure we've got audio because apparently everything else is not going to work right today. Hold on. Come on. My internet is being abnormally slow. And there's still nothing. Oh, wait, something is happening. Let's see if there's audio. Oh, this may be a problem. Okay, we do have audio, so that's good. And hopefully this is not going to be an ongoing thing all night. My husband is home. He is streaming hockey, I think, and he insists that it does not make a difference on my live streams. I don't know if I believe that. But yeah. Okay, so let's see if I can focus. It's been one of those days that I just wanted to go back to bed the first like 15 minutes I was up. So it's been a very long day. I'm lacking on sleep, and I don't imagine anything's going to come out of my mouth quite right tonight. So yay. Thanks for joining me and watching me fail at speaking. Painting will be fine. I can paint while I'm half asleep. Talking is another issue. Okay. So what I'm working on this one, this is a Frederick's, their blue label ultra smooth canvas. So very, very smooth. I am sponsored by Frederick's, just for transparency there. Already the only canvas brand that I use, so it didn't really make a difference as far as my choice goes, but just so you guys know, I am sponsored. But the reason that I went with this one, I knew I'm going to have a lot of little detail here. I know that there'll be some airbrushing later on, not today, and I did not get anything done from last week, as you can see. But this one, because it's so smooth, it's really, really easy to get the fine detail. Easier to blend and easy to get fine detail. If you're working with the canvas, if you are struggling with acrylics and they're not blending right for you, one, that just takes getting used to. But two, if you're using a canvas, and this took me years to realize, if you're using a canvas that is a bit too rough, the paint, you're fighting the canvas. It just makes it hard to blend. So hard to get details, all of that. Imagine painting on like a stucco wall, trying to get details in there. I mean, obviously that's an extreme example, but that's essentially what's happening if you're using a canvas that's very rough. So we want to go with something, if you're doing the type of painting that I'm doing, you want to go with something that's very smooth. So let's go ahead, and I've got Windows. Nope, you go away. Why are you up, window? Thanks, baby pandas. I'm actually not recording this one today. I'm just going to work on one half and do the other half for the full video. Okay, you're getting the chat feed, but nothing else. You're not getting audio. You guys should be. It's showing for me. Let's wait and see if this fixes itself a bit. I don't know how well this is going to work tonight, honestly. Well, I may make my husband go turn his game off. I'm sure he'll be pleased with that, but he shouldn't be home right now anyway. Is it getting any better for you, Nick? What happens if you refresh? I mean, obviously you would know to do that. Okay, we've got some people, good picture and audio. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and start and assume Nick is broken. So what I'm doing now, I want to do just a quick example. Make sure there's nothing I need. I like how YouTube notifies me that I'm live, but they don't notify me of people I follow when they're live. Thanks, YouTube. That's super helpful. I was not aware. Let's see. One of the things you want to keep in mind when you are working with acrylics, the harder you push with a paintbrush, the thicker your line is going to be. So if you're working with a brush, what a lot of people like to do, and I probably have one down here, let me see. A lot of people think they're going to get the tiniest line with a paintbrush like this. Oops, everybody get down there. Something like this. So teeny tiny bristles, or even smaller, thinking that's what's going to get them the detail. The problem is two things are majorly wrong with this. One, with acrylic paints, essentially, you can kind of get away with it with watercolor, Inktense, something like that. But with acrylics, they're going to build up right here at the base, right where the bristles touch the brush. So over time, and by over time, I mean 2-3 uses, if you're lucky, that is going to dry, and it causes those bristles, instead of being tightened together, they just spread, and you've got this frayed mess that is not going to give you the details you're hoping for. Hold on. So what I recommend instead, I'll put these brushes side by side so you can see, is a brush more like this. Look at the difference in the bristles how long and thin these ones are. Now, you may think that that brush is not going to give you as good or thin of lines as the teeny brush. It will give you thinner lines, and you can do longer brush strokes because you can load more paint into the brush. And it's way easier to keep the paint from building up here. Now, ideally, when you're loading your brush, you want to try to keep the paint from getting up near the bristles or where it attaches to the brush itself, to the handle, because that is going to help you to make the brush or the bristles will stay good longer. Wow, talking is even harder than I expected it to be tonight. So I really should have had more coffee than what I made. But this is what you want to avoid, is something like this. And I'm always going to have someone go, no, that works for me. Okay, great. You're probably not getting the results I'm looking for. So I'm talking about somebody who is looking to get the results that I am looking for. Then you want to go with something like this, the long, thin brushes. And there are different sizes. This one is a number 2. It's listed as a script liner. It's a synthetic hog hair. I get this one. It's a generic from Hobby Lobby. Their generic brushes are one of my absolute favorites. And with acrylics, whether I'm acrylics or oils, I generally am going to go with a synthetic hog hair for the liner brush. When I'm working with the other brushes, like this one, these ones I typically will go with their Taklon bristled brushes, which are a bit softer. At least for acrylics. For oils, I'll use those and the more firm brushes. But these ones really will help you to get more detail than what you're going to get with these tiny brushes. And man, did that take me years to figure out. Many things took me years to figure out. Let's see if I can save you guys some effort there. Let's see. Okay. And Nick, who I was hoping would really see this, can't see for some reason. I think it's because you're in the North Pole, Nick. You don't get a good internet connection. Or my husband watching hockey is ruining it for everybody. But I would think that would affect everybody. You may have to watch the replay for the tips I'm giving you, because these tips are really good. Nick is just learning acrylic, so I'm trying to keep that in mind as I explain stuff. Now, I want to show you with this brush. Let's say I load it. 2 things I want to show you with a liner brush. If you pick up a bunch of paint, let me make it more obvious. And you've got a chunk of paint. I don't know if you can see, there's a glob of paint at the end. That is not how this brush works. It's not going to give you the results that you want. What I want to do, I'm actually going to wipe all that off, rinse that brush out and start over. I'm going to use a bit of water, and I'm going to thin that out. And I'm rolling the brush into that. There should be no clump of paint at the end. But now, and notice here, I've got a gap. The paint is not going all the way up to the end of the bristles. I'm up front, and it's on there very smooth. I don't have any big globs or chunks of paint. So as I work, if I want to get a thick line, I can push hard and get a much thicker line. I'm going to reload that. Now, this is on paper, which I don't recommend. For acrylic, if you're going to paint on paper, like in a sketchbook, you need to gesso it first. Otherwise, you get what I'm having here. It soaks in, and you can't really blend things. It makes a whole mess. So here, probably have a little bit too much there. If I just barely don't push very hard at all. Look how thin. Same brush. And you can even, if you're at a better angle than I am, get even thinner lines. But you get really thin lines just by not pushing very hard. So it's a combination of 2 things. 1, not pushing very hard. And the 2, not having a big glob of paint that's not thinned out with water. Okay. Shannon is or says she's no better at speaking too early in the evening. And by about 7 a.m. Yeah. Oh, I don't. One of those days. I always have trouble speaking, but yeah, it's definitely worse. Okay. So, and just as a reminder, you guys, if you have a question for me, make sure you do the @Lachri Fine Art, or I just don't see the comment because I just assume you guys are talking to yourselves. So if it's not highlighted in orange with the @Lachri Fine Art, I'm not going to get your comment. If you're having trouble making that work, it's not highlighting for you, but you have a question you want to ask. If you ask somebody else, a mod or somebody else will usually ask it for you, so that I can see it. Let's see. So I'm going to just start with black. Very basic. I can glaze color over this as needed when I go on. So I thin that with water, and I'm just twisting that brush, which hopefully is there where you can see. And I'm going to do a combination because I'm going to start shading. I'm using this stiff round brush. These are super cheap. Little, like, I think for, gosh, probably 15, 20 bucks less than that usually at Michael's, or I like the Michael's ones better than the Hobby Lobbies. But they come in a pack with a canvas holder and then a bunch of brushes like this in different sizes with the round ends like this, and then with the flat brushes. These are really good for certain techniques. Now, I don't use them as like my sole, this is how I'm painting my background. It's going to be too scratchy, too stiff or something like this, but they're really good for the shading that you're going to see me do. So as I start forming these rocks, I want to start separating some of the shapes. And I want to create a shadow on the bottom. Nothing here has to be perfect. They're just well, they're just rocks. So good practice for shading. I'm going to just take the upper edge and pull that up. I don't want to spend a bunch of time blending down in this section. If I do that, I'm going to create a hole. So what happened, let's see if I can do one on purpose. Let's say I wanted to shade around the outer edge here. I'm going to probably remove all of this because I just want to do this as an example of what not to do. So I've got my paint and I start blending in the center of the wet paint instead of the outer edge like you should do in this case. I start blending in here and blending, and people usually will overblend, and we'll keep blending because everyone likes to overblend. It's like one stroke look good, a million strokes will look better. Keep blending, blending, blending. I ended up with a hole in a round, heavy line around the edge, which I don't want. So I'm actually going to rinse those brushes. Rinse this brush out too. So what I want to do instead is focus on the outer edge where I'm blending. I'm blending a wet area into a dry area. So this is different than the wet into wet blending like what I did last week. Now, if you want to remove something, if you do something like that or make a mistake and you don't like how it looks, before it dries, this is key, before it dries, previous layer needs to be dry. You need to be using quality paint. There are certain paints like Reeves, they will just keep lifting even if the previous layer is technically dry. But I can take a wet brush and just wipe that off. So it's like an eraser. Okay, let's see. Digital Judy said, so did you add any water at all to the liner brush? Absolutely. It is always thinned with water every single time. Good question. I'm Creative Girl of Color with Danielle. That is long. I'm going to call you Creative. Long name. It says, hey, long time since I've been on your live. I'm loving this painting. Oh, thank you. This is going to look so different when it's done. It isn't going to look anything like what you guys are seeing here. And normally, another thing that I want to point out for if Nick comes back and watches this later, because I don't know if he's here with us right now, the order that I painted this is not how I normally would layer acrylics. So normally I would get to, the background done. I would normally not even do a lot of work on the rocks up here. I would just work on this section start to finish. The reason that this is being done in a kind of weird order where I'm not finished back here, but I'm suddenly jumping up here just for the sake of the live stream, because that I think would be pretty boring because it's kind of a repeat of what I did last week. So that's why I wanted to work on details tonight. But normally I don't work on the details until all of this is done. Am I using my paint puck right now? Actually, I'm not. I should be. I have this bigger one for when I do big things, like painting the whole background. And it was still out from last week because last week I had to use larger brushes that don't fit in the paint puck. So that's why this one is still out. And I've been packing all week and not painting, so I didn't switch. My paint puck is right. Oh no, where is it? Oh, it's back there. It actually still has the teal colored water in it from when I did the sample with that video. But normally I would switch to that when I'm using these smaller brushes, but not tonight. But I do like that thing. Let's see. Oh, good. Nick's good. So let's go back. Water is mixed in with this again. And then I'm going to twist that in. Now you don't want so much water that it runs or drips. The more water you add, the more translucent that color is going to be. So remember that. And I'm just going to let's thicken that up a little bit. So let's go back to these. And I'll throw some little pebbles in between some of these sections. So I'm really just going to focus on that outer edge, creating that shadow, and I'll come back and do highlights too. So we'll go both ways on that. And one of the things you kind of have to get used to balancing out. If the paint on this brush that I'm applying the paint with is not super, super thinned out, then I need my brush I'm blending with to be a little bit damp. The more water you have in this brush, the less you want in this. And the reverse, the more in this brush, the less in this. You kind of balance those two. And mine is starting to get a little dry, so I'm going to go ahead and wet that so I don't end up with a real dry brush look. Am I painting a seascape? This one is actually a freshwater scene, which you don't see me do often. So that's why you see more of these yellowy green colors that usually if I'm doing a normal seascape. Now this technically you can do these colors in a marine scene, but with freshwater, you're typically going to have more yellowish tones to them. And so that's where eventually this one will land. It'll be a while. We're going to go ahead and blend that up. Now, I don't need to blend every edge. I don't need to blend here because I need that's supposed to be a harsh edge. I'm actually going to blend out this way though. But don't feel like when you blend, one of the things that people have a tendency to do, they blend on both sides. You don't usually want to do that. I have my hard edge and I want that fading up. Bria said, hey, loved your recent video on colored pencils on a budget. Also, thank you. What do you use for recording voiceovers? I record in Adobe Premiere Pro, and the mics that I use, it's a Blue Yeti. Those ones, I've been really happy with those mics. They're fairly inexpensive. I mean, I don't want to say inexpensive. I mean, all tech stuff ends up being kind of expensive. But for the price, I think the quality is really, really good. I want to say this one, although I did recently price that out because I had to do it for my insurance stuff. That one runs, I think, like $115-ish. They used to be about $150. So the one that I have is a little bit cheaper than they used to be, which is nice. I mean, if I have to replace them at least. And this is all very flat because it's just with black. Like I said, I'm going to glaze color over all of this, so it's not going to stay this way. And this goes a lot faster than you would think. I mean, it's slow right now just because I'm sitting here talking to you guys, but normally when I go through and I've got a lot of pebbles like this, you will knock them out very, very fast, and they're such good practice. You may look at something like that and go, oh, that's too tedious. I don't want to deal with that. You'll get really quick at it, and it's such good practice for controlling your liner brush, especially considering that if something looks terrible and goes horribly wrong, it's a rock. It doesn't matter. Like, no one's going to know that the rock isn't perfect. So great, great practice. Oops, I pulled too much off when I dabbed it with my finger. And it's okay if it's a little fuzzy to start. You can clean things up as you go. And the big thing to remember, I think one of the biggest tips, don't overblend. That's what the biggest mistake I see people when they get started with this is they make a couple of brush strokes. It looks good, and so they think more brush strokes will look better, and they ruin what looked good. Don't overdo it. Usually just a little bit goes a very long ways. So I just want to soften that transition. See, that was it. Just little thing there. It's actually better if I start from the back and work my way forward just because of the nature of the shadows. That will be easier. Or the rocks, whatever. I don't know, words are hard. Extra hard tonight. Christy said, really thin paint with airbrush cleaner. Doesn't Lisa say water only? I'm not sure what you're responding to. I think I missed a question from somebody. Is it better to thin paint with airbrush medium if concerned with archival? No. So here's the thing. You probably watched the same video everyone watched that has this question. There's a video out there and then maybe there's multiples, but there's one really bad one where notice that the comments are blocked on that or shut off on that one because everyone was telling her, I'm sure, that she was absolutely wrong in the information she was giving. You can add all the water you want. The more water you add, the more translucent the paint is going to be, and it will become less adhesive in the sense of like the blending that I'm doing here where I'm kind of scraping or scrubbing a little with this brush. If you're using a cracked paint and you thin it with water, it can be completely dry. If it's thinned a lot with water, it will lift off. Even the Liquitex, if I thinned it to where it was like watercolor thin, it can start lifting off the paint a bit. But once it's dry and you varnish it, paint's not moving. The paint is there. It's not an issue of being archival. I guess it's more of the techniques that you're using. But that video makes it sound like if you add water, she had like percentages and crap of science that is so misleading and incorrect, and actual science that's been done has proven she's completely like incorrect on that. I don't even know if she actually makes still videos or if that video's just like a one-off or whatever, or maybe just misinformation from whoever gave it to her. But Golden's shares regularly a video showing they've done studies and you can add all the water it doesn't change how archival it is. That's not how it works. And from my own experience from years and years of painting in acrylics, and by years and years, I mean, gosh, probably, how old am I now? So 25, more than 25 years of painting with acrylics, I would say. I still have paintings that I painted way back then that were thinned extremely, extremely thin with water, that I even painted on furniture that I used to stand on. Once it's varnished, it is not budging. It's not coming off. That video talked about how, oh, it'll chip and flake and all that. No, if your paint is chipping and flaking, it has nothing to do with the water you added. There are other problems. It could be a bad gesso, bad canvas, or the wrong canvas for the type of painting, like if it was really thick. It's not because you added water. So, no, I absolutely do add water. Now, if I'm painting with an airbrush, if I'm using Createx paint, I've always thinned it with water, but I moved away from using Createx. It's just a bit too thick for the size needle I like to work with. So now I use either Holbeins or Goldens, and that's a lot thinner. If I need to thin it, which I never really do, but if I did, I have a medium that I can use for it. It dries faster is the benefit there. The water works. It's still archival when it dries. It's just that using a mixing medium can help it, the kind that I have, makes it dry a bit faster than if I just used water. So that's, the only real bonus for me anyway, in that case. But no, absolutely. I thin my paint, and that's what I'm using right now is just tap water. So there's really nothing wrong with that. Now, as far as using tap water goes, in other mediums, if I were working in Inktense or watercolor pencil or something like that on paper, that can be a little bit more moody, I guess, about what kind of water you're using. And with that, I would recommend using distilled water, because whatever is in our tap water, we don't know. And I don't know that that's not going to cause some archival issues as far as the colors fading, the paper turning yellow, that sort of thing. So in that case, I don't recommend tap water. I would recommend distilled. I usually just use tap water because I don't sell those pieces, so I don't really care. But if you're trying, if that's something that's of concern to you, then I would not use tap water. But no, for just thinning acrylic paints or even my airbrush paint, with those few exceptions with airbrush, no, the water is just fine. Unfortunately, that video makes anyone who knows how to paint with acrylics and knows how this works life a little bit difficult, because it's that scare tactic, like, you've got to watch this video because, oh my God, are you doing this thing wrong? Which drives me insane. I hate that type of video, but it worked. It got her views, I guess. Enough so that she had to turn off comments a long time ago. But yeah, no, I'm definitely a fan of water. There is nothing wrong with it. And if you go look up Golden's acrylics on Facebook, I know they've shared it. I'm not sure where else, but they share that fairly often, like showing people the studies behind it. Like, you can add water all you want. It doesn't hurt anything. Okay. Wow, that was quite a rant. Sorry about that, guys. Oh. And I apologize, and you're used to this. This is how I talk. I rant about things. Let's see. Casey said, are you using straight up black for the shadows, or it is a mix of multiple colors? This is just Mars Black. I will glaze other color over it. I've got to glaze, actually I'll be airbrushing eventually the green colors over this and tone this down so it looks like it's in water, because right now it sure doesn't. This is just to kind of give you an idea of how I handle the liner brush and getting these smaller details. Baby Panda said, do you wipe off your shading brush after each use to get the paint off that you just picked up? No, only when it starts to like build up, where it's got, if I were to make a brush stroke and paint comes off of it, I know I need to rinse that off. And it will get to the point where if I've rinsed it enough, it gets wet. It starts to get soft and not work very well if it gets too wet from too many times of rinsing it. These brushes are just weird. So I'll switch to a clean one or a dry, cleanish one. I'll still get it wet because, like I said earlier, I like it to be a bit damp, but not as wet as it gets when you really rinse it out well. So yeah, and I'll point out when I have to switch it because it's getting to that point where it's a bit soft, and it's going to have to be cleaned soon too. Christy said, yay, I managed to catch another live stream. Very excited. How are you today? I think you're supposed to, by like standards of normal people, say, good, how are you? Today, though, has been a very rough day. We found out that closing costs are going to be an extra $2,200 or 21 something, almost $2,200 more than what I expected, and more than what the guy told me they would be back in the summer. So that was a big, holy crap, that's over $2,000 that I have to come up with. I mean, I can get it. It just makes it so my savings is so little, and I don't want a little savings when you just bought a house. What if you have an emergency? Because I don't use credit cards. So it's frustrating. But that was not good news. And then I had the apartment, which was just more of an inconvenience and annoyance. The apartments emailed me today telling me they were coming into my apartment on, what day did they say? Monday. Make sure my dogs are locked up and everything, because they were coming in to measure for cabinets. And I'm like, wait a minute. I know you have to renovate this unit after I leave, but I'm paying for an extra 3 months. You can wait till I'm gone or schedule an appointment. Like, I'm not going to leave my dogs. Worry about that. I don't want people coming into the apartment with my pets when I'm not home. That really concerns me. And I also don't like the fact I sleep during the day. So if they show up in the morning to measure, I have to wake up, which would be like a normal person waking up at 3 a.m. or 2 a.m. while in the middle of their sleep so that they can measure cabinets, which really just annoys me because it's like I'm paying. When we leave, I'm giving them $3,700 to cover December, January, February, and the rest of, well, I'll have already paid for November. So I'm just like, wait, why can't you wait until I move for that? So they did go ahead and schedule. Actually, the girls who work in the apartment are great. They went ahead and scheduled an appointment for like the following week on a time that I told them was convenient for me to come do that. But that, and then my husband was sick and he didn't want to go to the doctor, but he was sick with this again last week. And I'm like, nope, is that the second day you called it, or time in the last week you called in sick? It's time to go to the doctors. So he was mad at me for that. He thinks I'm a hypochondriac. I was, and it was a good thing. Doctor gave him medicine. So anyway, that was my day. And then lack of sleep, and my brain is just, I woke up early and then like my day just started the first 10 minutes, because the first thing I do when I wake up is look at my phone and emails and stuff, and then forget to answer them when I need to. But anyway, I always look at them and it was like, wow, that is a lot of information right now. My husband had texted me that he was calling in sick. He had woke up during the night. Then the extra 2,000 is probably the biggest shocker. That I was not happy. Although I did talk to a few people. I asked about that on Facebook because I didn't know if that was normal. Like, are they trying to screw me over right now? What is going on? And it turns out it could have been a lot worse. Some people didn't get their house because they like the closing costs were off, and you're not allowed, I guess, to borrow money or put it on a credit card. I mean, I don't have credit cards, but you're not allowed to borrow money for that. You'd have to get it as a gift or sell your stuff or whatever to get. So a lot of people end up not getting the houses when stuff like that happens. So I'm like, okay, I guess I feel kind of lucky. I'm really glad I asked people about it. But it's still, wow, $2,000, and I was already broke. So yay, that was my day. That is not the answer people expect when they say, how was your day? They expect you to say, fine, thank you. I'm bad at this. Let's see. Scrolling up to some questions. Did I miss? Let's see. Shading the rocks for practice is a great idea. I procrastinate a lot during painting sessions due to lack of confidence and not trusting myself. It takes me hours longer than it should. That will get easier the more you paint. I think that that's very normal. A lot of people, when they first start painting, they'll comment how slow it is. No matter what medium you're working in, it's just very slow. And that's very normal when you're new to any medium. So don't feel like you're abnormal or that it's any indication that you're not going to be amazing eventually. But very, very, very common when you first start painting to be fairly slow. I mean, that's common, which kind of sucks for acrylics, because one of the things with acrylics, you have to paint fast because it dries. But no, that's a very normal thing. So definitely don't ever feel like give up or anything. I mean, that's not what you said you do, but don't give up if you are like, wow, I'm bad at this, or I'm too slow at this, it takes me too long. The more you paint, the faster you're going to get. Now I'm starting to smudge paint where I don't want it. I'm just going to take a clean brush and remove a little bit more of this. There we go. And I do this brush. So I talked about earlier, it was going to get to the point where it was too soft for rinsing, and it's getting to that point. So it just kind of bends. It's too bendy. And so it's not doing what I need it to do. So I'm just going to rinse that one off, set it to the side. When it dries out, probably not tonight. It probably won't be till tomorrow that I'll go back to this one. But I always have lots of these little stiff ones because they are very cheap. So I'm going to use a clean one. I'm going to get it a little bit damp. Let's see. Baby Panda said, what a difference that little bit of shading does. They look wonderful already. Thanks for your tips. Yeah, it really gives it a lot of depth. And especially wait till you see this finished. Like, you guys aren't going to believe the difference when I glaze, or in this case, probably airbrush. Again, not tonight, but when I put the color over it from the background, and so it really looks like it fades forward, it's such a cool technique, and so easy too. Time consuming, kind of, but easy. Nick said if they wanted to measure early for cabinets, they can release you from the lease early. That's what I said. Although I did ask, my friend works there, so that makes it easier. But I wasn't sure if they did this. I'm like, because I know if there's two different ways. They could do it as an I pay out my lease, or they could do it as a lease break. And I'm not sure either way I pay the same. So I'm like, I don't know what one I'm paying off the lease when I leave. And so I wasn't sure if the difference, and I meant to ask her and I forgot until today. if they rent out the unit, which is not likely this time of year. There are a lot of empty units in this building. The only complex, it's a big complex. The only benefit of my unit, it has a really pretty view over the creek, and then it has hardwood, or not hardwood floors, it's the fake wood floors, but in the living room and like the living room, hall, kitchen is normal for that, but usually the living room and hallway out there would have carpet, and on the third floor that's kind of unheard of, at least out here. So because it's too noisy for the people below you, I guess. But they tried it on this unit and the one next to us, so there's only 2 units in the entire complex that have those wood look floors. But yeah, so maybe she'll be able to lease it because of that. And she said they do give us the money back if they do find a lease for it. So I guess it's good for them to do that. She said it takes them about a month for the cabinets to get here. So, which kind of sucks. And that's the other thing that I'm like, wait a minute. So you guys decide to renovate, which slows up the potential to even rent this place out for a month. And, I mean, well, that's, I guess, why they're ordering it early. So I should be grateful. But I don't have the potential to make the money back. She can't lease it because you decided to renovate. It just timing of everything just kind of sucked. But I complain, but honestly, this apartment complex and the girls who work here now I've had problems with one of the past girls, actually, they got rid of. She was a problem for a lot of people, as it turned out. But the ones that work here now, they're actually really, really helpful. So as much as I complain, it's not like their fault. These are just corporate policies. I'll end up putting some little pebbles in here later, but we'll just go ahead and get a shadow in there for now. And we'll scrub that out. Now my edges of my rocks are getting a little fuzzy on some of these. That's okay. I'll come back through with some highlights and I can clean that up. Whoops. That scrolled too far. Wow, I scrolled way too far. I'm missing a bunch of questions. Let's get caught up for a second. Oh, there we go. Christy said, I agree. I have 3 rescue fur babies. Hate workmen in the house. Yeah, I mean, that's like one of few cases, I think, when your dogs get out of the house that it's not like, I mean, yeah, mine, I have a crate and such, but what if one of them got out of a crate? One of them's a freaking genius. She knows how to get those doors open. So, and it stresses them out when somebody comes in that isn't normally here, or the cockatiel, or what if they spray something that can't be around the fish or the bird? I just, no, you stay out. Let's see, where are they coming up with another 2,200? Heather asked. They told me that the taxes were higher, went up. And I'm like, how did the taxes go up so much that closing costs are then, I don't understand why the closing costs went up. I don't understand where that's coming from. So I had a friend of mine, actually a few people offered help on that, but a friend of mine who knows all the real estate stuff, whatever, I don't know what he does, but he looked at it and he said, yeah, it looks like it's because the house, we bought it for $312 and it appraised at $330. So that's why taxes went up. So I guess that's where it's coming from. That's, I guess, the best we can figure. I'll talk to the seller guy, builder, seller guy, whatever, tomorrow and see what he says. I called, but he was out of the office, so he's going to call me back tomorrow. I don't know if there's anything, I don't think there's anything he can do about it. It does sound, though, from what I'm hearing, that the closing costs are a bit high, like percentage-wise, higher than some other places, which I don't understand. So I don't know that they're going to do anything. But yeah, that's the best we could find. And when I talked to the guy, the lender, the actual like loan guy, he was saying all he could tell me is that it was from the taxes going up. And it's like, how did the taxes go up enough that it's $2,200 when you told me it would be about $2,300 total? Now you're telling me I need another 20. It's like $2,140 something, I think, extra. And he's just like, well, the taxes go up and we never know until whatever. And it's something about be glad that we didn't close in October because every October taxes go up even more. Something weird about October. And I'm like, but if you knew we were going to be closing around November, December, how then could you not tell me there's a potential? It might be double what I just told you, because he did not tell me that. I was already surprised to hear how much closing costs were, because I didn't even know that was like, I didn't know anything about that sort of thing. So the builder covers $7,000 in closing costs. So that means that my actual closing costs are, what are they? $7,000 plus another, the $2,300 plus the 21, whatever additional. So they're a lot higher than what we expected them to be. That's for sure. So I can't say for certain where they got the 2,200. We do know that it appraised for higher. So we think that's where it's coming from. But I'm like, yeah. You could tell the guy was getting annoyed with me on the phone asking questions, but I'm like, what? I don't understand how you just randomly are like, and give us an extra 2,100. And on top of that, the only reason I found that out, they won't give the final stuff with all of that until a week before closing, or about a week, he said. So he's still giving me technically an estimate. I'm like, this is just ridiculous. I don't understand. Let's see. Awake Artist said, is the reason you didn't start with the foreground, is there a reason you didn't start with the foreground, or were you just thinking about dragging paint with the side of your hand? Huh? No. Okay. So with acrylic paint, this is actually a really good question. With acrylic paint, and even with oils, I don't like to start with the foreground. The foreground needs to be my area where things are clean, where my edges are more defined, all of that. When you're working with acrylics, it is better. And there are some artists who do the reverse, who do great paintings. But for the most part, it's going to be easier for most people. Start with whatever is farthest back and work your way forward. The only reason I am working on the foreground now, when I still have way more to do back here, is because just for the live stream, purpose of the live stream, I wanted to work with a lighter brush. You guys could see in real time how I work that. But normally, it's easier to do things in layers with acrylics. Now, with oils, I would have drawn my subject out and painted around it because of the dry time. You have time to blend everything around and get it smooth. Acrylics, you don't. Acrylics dry very, very fast. So let's say I drew my subject, did the foreground first, and then wanted to blend a smooth background. It's not going to come out very smooth. Not for this style. So it dries too fast. So while I'm trying to get my edges clean, the thing I painted over here is still just already dry. So it's better just paint all of the background first and work your way forward is normally the way in most cases that work best for most artists for this type of painting. Now, if you're doing something where your brush strokes show, it's a bit more impressionistic, that's not really a big deal. Work however you're comfortable. But normally, if you're trying to get, like in this case, where my background is very, very smooth, that's not going to happen if I'm trying to paint around a subject because acrylics just dry too slow. Let's see. Christy said, wow, sorry, your life is hectic right now. It will be great when you get to move to your new house. Do you have a good job leaving your problems? You do a good job leaving your problems at the door when you live stream? Thanks. Well, apparently not, because I've been venting to you guys now for about 20 minutes. I'm not doing a good job leaving them at the door now. Let's see. Michelle says, question. I painted a couple of oil paintings over a year ago and the varnish is still sticky. I waited about a week or two until the painting was dry to the touch. What went wrong? I would contact the manufacturer and ask. I'm really not sure. I've not had that happen. I mean, oils, depending on what you use for your mixing medium, they can dry super, super slow. I mean, I had one 6 months later. It was still just as wet as the day I painted it because I didn't use mixing medium. I just used straight out of the tube and like pretty much painted it with a palette knife, but with a brush. It was bad. It was a mess. I learned how not to do that. But the mediums you're using can make a difference. The paints you're using can make a difference, and the varnish you're using. So I would contact the manufacturers for those specific products and ask what went wrong. I would start with the varnish company and find out. Normally, the only varnish that you can use right off the bat, like as soon as the painting is dry to the touch, that I know of anyway, is Gamvar by Gamblin. And that's the one I use. And it's beautiful. Love it. Can't recommend it enough. But I paint very light. So my painting dries and I use a fast drying medium. So everything with mine dries very, very quickly, including the varnish that I put on at the end. But if you're using a paint that, like, let's say I was going to varnish with a Winsor & Newton, they recommend your painting needs to be dry. So not just dry to the touch, but dry for 6 months before you varnish. So, if that could have been the case, or I don't know. I mean, there's so many factors that could cause it, but I would contact the manufacturer and see what they say. Whenever you're working with a supply like that, like if you varnished something and it came out weird, contact the manufacturer, show them, because they probably have seen everything possible go wrong. Baby Panda said, sorry you had such a rough day today. Thank you. And you were gracious enough still to teach us all tonight. Well, yeah, apparently I can't give up work. I've got to make up $2,200 or whatever. Yeah, I can't take a day off. Let's see. Thank you. Your live streams are the highlight of my week. Oh, that's so sweet. It's so much fun. I love doing these though. Like, it super cheered me up too. I have a feeling if I would have just spent the night like packing or whatever on my own, I would have just been all mopey and whatever. So when you get to actually go hang out, I feel like I'm hanging out with friends. So it definitely, you guys are cheering me up too. That's for sure. Let's see. Sintu, I apologize if I say that wrong. I'm saying everything wrong. So you can't take insult to me saying the name wrong. I just said every word in like 10 words wrong. This says, thank you. That makes me feel better. Good to know slow is normal right now. Yeah, don't feel bad about working slow. That's for sure. Let's see. Angela Clark says, I love your easel. Where you mount your airbrush, it looks like it has pulleys. Who makes it? This one is what is it? Jack Richardson? Jack Rich. Somebody's going to correct me. I'm going to make a video once we move. I'm going to wait till the new studio because I can back the camera way away from the easel and show you the whole thing. It's a little harder to do here, but I think it's Jack Richardson. I don't know. I bought it from Dick Blick. Look up words that sound something like that. It's their best. It just says best on it, but it's, yeah, it's a really nice easel. And I'll do a full review on it once we move, which is in a month, so soon. Nick said, I agree. I'm so slow with mixing colors and stuff right now. I end up having wasted more paint and dry paint on the palette than I use on the canvas. Now, let me give you guys a quick tip that is really going to help you out when you're painting. Now, with the background, when you're trying to get the background before it dries, you're going to go through a lot of paint then. But normally, when you're painting, let me make sure I'm working on the area. What is this? Is in focus. Blue. Okay. Let's say I want to mix blue, a light blue. I don't want to take a scoop of blue and a huge scoop of white and start stirring them together. That is how you mix the wrong color most of the time. You also, and a lot of artists are comfortable doing this, and if you are an experienced artist, go for it. But I don't recommend when students are new to mix with a palette knife. It is a really good way when you're learning to mix colors to make a crap ton of the wrong color. So it wastes a lot of paint that way. So what I recommend doing, take my brush. This is a Taklon bristled filbert. It's usually what I use for mixing. And let's say I want to go with a light blue. Well, I know that blue is going to overpower my white. So I'm going to go ahead and just start with white. And how do I know that? Experience. You're just going to figure that out over time. I'm going to take a little bit of white. I'm going to take a little bit of blue. And I'm going to mix them slowly into each other. Because you usually don't need that much paint until I get the right blue. So let's say I'm like, that's a little too dark. Let's throw some more white. I'm going to pull a little bit more white into it. And now look at the range I've got between light blue to dark blue. I'm not wasting as much paint as I would if I just took a glob of each and just started stirring them together. So it's a good way when you're working on smaller areas. Of course, on the background where you've got to get a bunch of a ton of one color, yeah, you're gonna mix more paint there. And if you mix a lot of extra, what I like to do, like I did in this case, is I get these little containers from like Hobby Lobby, Michael's, whatever. And I put the paint in there. Now, this one's a bit on the big size, but look at all that extra paint. I don't even remember. Oh, this was from one of the aquashola paintings I did recently. Now, this will start to dry over time. So every so often, if I've got a lot of these, I'll just take my spray bottle with water and squirt a little water in there, and it keeps it from drying out completely. And I just mix it when I'm ready to use it again. But that's one of the best ways you can do if you do find yourself mixing paint and mixing a ton of the wrong color. These little things can be really handy. Or in this case, it was the right color. It was just that I knew I might need this color again, and I mixed more than I needed. So saving it was helpful, and I'll use it on something eventually. Okay, next question we have. Carla says, I have learned from Lisa for years. Amazing. I draw with colored pencils, and it is an addiction. Lisa, I now crave more and more art supplies. Now I need acrylics. Acrylics are definitely, I would say, my favorite. With colored pencils are probably close behind it. I really like Inktense too. Really, watercolor pencils are growing on. I like all the mediums apparently, but acrylics are my I can't go without acrylics. So yes, I recommend if you're going to get one other supply, I would say acrylics. Let's see. Casey said, is there a manual way to make the rocks appear underwater without using an airbrush, possibly by hand? Absolutely. The way that you would do that is a glaze. Maybe I'll do that towards the end if this dries. I can show you at least a hint. I kind of don't want to. Not because I don't want to give it the information. I just think I don't think I'm going to get far enough along on this that I can glaze it without making it look messed up. But yeah, I'll just explain it to you. Sorry, I'm working through things in my head right now. What I would do is mix, not with white. Don't use white. It'll be foggy. What I would do is mix the colors that I have in the background. So in my case, I think this was hooker green. I think there was hooker's green, phthalo blue, I think it was phthalo blue. And yeah, those two colors. Thin it down a lot with water and then paint over some of these, especially, where it was more color saturated in the back and thinner working forward so that they get more and more gray here. And the ones that are in the back, those ones have more of this background color so that you get this nice transition between the two. But yeah, you just do what we call a glaze to tone those down towards the back. Let's see. Christina said, is it normal to stop your painting before it looks right? I seem to stop a picture before I should because it feels like I'm going the wrong direction. People do that a lot. It's very common. It's very normal. You definitely don't want to stop before it's finished, though. Very, very common. I would say more often than not, when I see critiques, and you'll see this a lot when you watch my critiques, my main complaint on most critiques is that you're stopping before it's finished. Most people get about a quarter of the way through their painting and then call it finished. And it's not that the painting is wrong or bad, it's just incomplete. So you want to finish, you want to start making yourself finish. And yeah, you're going to get bad layers. There are some of my absolute favorite, well, every single painting ever has bad layers. But like there was one I was working on, I don't even know where it is right now, but I have a clownfish that's photorealistic, like super, super realistic, airbrushed in the background and the anemones and clownfish, tons of detail. And some of those layers on the anemone, I 100% made it look way worse. It didn't matter. I wasn't finished yet. I'm just going to keep layering until it looks good. Don't call it finished too soon. You're not doing yourself any favors. And a lot of people get hung up on, well, I don't want to make it worse. I'm going to stop because I'm afraid it's going to get even worse. Okay, but it isn't finished anyway. Who cares if it gets worse? You're going to learn from it at least then. Don't just like put it to the side and not finish it for fear of messing it up. You're not learning then, and you're not finishing the painting. So it didn't matter. It's not like you can sell it. It's not finished yet. So yeah, it's very common. It's very normal, but you want to stop yourself from doing that. Make yourself finish. Let's see. Next we have, I want to get caught up on a couple of these before I get back to some of the tedious rocks that you've already seen me paint. Let's see. Whoops. Going up. We have Heather said, we are cheap and fun therapy. Yes, you are. Thank you. I should be paying you guys. Gail said, retired military here, living in our 5th house, sold 4 houses, 2 by the owner. There's almost always surprises. Hope the move goes smoothly. Thank you. And yeah, one of the biggest mistakes we made, we didn't go with a realtor. I think if we had a realtor, I don't think that we would have been like saving money or anything, but I think we wouldn't have had a surprise like that. I would have had more guidance throughout this, and that's definitely one of the things I will do differently next time. Kylie said, I set myself up for the stream with coffee, colored pencils, and a project in hand to draw while I watch you. But you give so much good info that I get completely absorbed and do nothing. Well, thank you. But go draw. Get to that drawing. Elaine said, I've been doing art and creating all my life. Long time, LOL. I'm learning new mediums. Would you say there is a length of time before giving, to wait before giving tips on blogs, etc.? No, even in the beginning, when you do something, let's say you've been working with acrylics for 2 weeks, I think that's a good time to do a blog and tell people, if nothing else, what didn't work for you. I did such and such and such, and it came out bad, and I'm not going to do those things again. Or I did this thing, and it worked really well. I will definitely repeat that process. I think you can start right away. As soon as you have something to share with someone that you think might help, whether it be something that went wrong or something that went good, I think it's valuable to do. So I say go for it. Let's see. Next we have Angela said, thanks. I've been looking for an easel that has a small space to hold my water or mount my airbrush and cannot find something I love. Looking forward to the video. It's expensive. This one was all my Christmas money plus money I had saved last year. It was a huge, I'm going to screw up my trying to think how I can show this to you in a way that you can see. I think it might be posted. If you go to my Instagram, I think I've got photos way back, but where I was not necessarily trying to show off the easel, but just the setup. You can see what the whole thing looks like. It's big. It's not a small easel. It's one of those things like I will have this easel for the rest of my life. It's heavy. I think it's oak. Very heavy. It's not this is not one that you have to replace ever. And my last one was actually really good. I had gotten it on clearance at Michael's back in when did I get that? I think around 99, 2000, right around, I don't know. I had it forever until this last year when I got this last Christmas, or well, technically I got it at the beginning of just January by the time they shipped it, because there was it's long to get it shipped to you. But that one, the one from Michael's that I spent like $50, again, clearance like 20 years ago, but that one lasted all this time. It was good too. It was getting to the point where I had taken screws out too many times to make room for stuff underneath. It didn't have a real big footprint under. And it was just not as stable as I wanted it to be, and I lost those screws. So that one had to go. But it was affecting like with the videos when I push. Well, this one does if you push hard enough, but the whole thing was moving. But even that, like just a heavy wood one is nice. But this one has a tray. It has these little cups that stick inside the tray. So I've got my one on this side and one on that side. Sometimes I throw colored pencils I'm working on there. I set my colored pencils on the tray is about this wide. So I can set colored pencils on it. Right now I have a mouse for each computer is on it and my phone and all kinds. I mean, sometimes there's coffee sitting on it. Yeah, it's really a nice, it was worth saving for, that's for sure. I don't regret that purchase. Although that could be money to go towards the sudden, here's $2,200 we want from you price. Let's see. I'm missing a whole bunch. There we go. Yep, got that one. Jesse said, I remember when I first started acrylics and used to pour like half a bottle of paint onto a palette. Oh, me too. I did the same thing, which sucks. I was so poor at the time, and I say that below poverty level. We'll say, so when I say that, some people get mad when you use the term poor because it doesn't validate somebody else. I don't know. I don't understand the whole thing. I was below poverty level at the time. But when I was trying to buy these paints, I didn't have money to go out and buy new ones. And I was wasting so much. I definitely had to learn how to be a bit more frugal there. Thanks, Cinti. I'm not saying it right. I know I'm not, and I apologize. Thanks, Ursies. Whoops, and that just scrolled too far. Let's see. Carla said, do you recommend a certain brand of acrylics? I definitely prefer for the way I paint. There are good, well, I should complete a thought. That would be awesome. But Liquitex Basics are my favorites because they're a bit thinner. They're really good for glazes, which is how I paint. I build up, like when you see my paintings in person, there's a lot of depth to them. Oh my God. How much more time do I have to try to talk? Another hour and 10 minutes. This is going to get worse. I'm a little bit worried for you guys having to listen to me, but it's, the more layers you have and the translucent layers, you end up with the light refracts through each layer. It ends up having a lot more depth to it. You don't really capture that obviously on video or photo, but when you see them in person, it makes a big difference. And Liquitex Basics, I love for that. So they are definitely my favorites. I choose only the light fast colors, obviously, but most of the colors are completely light fast with the exception of some. There are a few like fluorescent type colors that are not. So obviously check that on the brand or the box when you're getting it. If I weren't using these, I've used Grumbacher, loved those. I've used, they're a little bit thicker, way more expensive, but I don't like them enough that I'm like, oh, I'm going to spend more for paint because I think if it was better, if I felt that I was getting better results, I would. Right now, I'm kind of like, I've only used a couple colors to be fair, so I didn't give it like this full, I went out and bought a whole set and gave it all the chance in the world. I might change my mind if that were the case. But I like them, and I like Golden's acrylics are also very nice. But yeah, I just find myself, and I'll get another tube of another brand because I like the color or whatever, but I always find myself going back to my Liquitex Basics. I just really like these. And I've had people complain or say, why aren't you using archival paint? Why are you using cheap paint? Being cheap doesn't mean it's not archival. It absolutely is. The problem that most people have with it is that the pigment, the saturation is not super, super bold, which is great because I glaze. That's why I like it. It's not really, really opaque. Your Mars Black and your Titanium White, Unleashed Titanium White, Naples Yellow, trying to think of some of the other ones. Was it chromium of oxide or oxide of chromium, something like that? Those are the only really, really opaque colors. No, not only. There are a few more now that I think about it. But anyway, most of the colors are fairly translucent and they just work well for how I paint. But like I said, not everybody is going to like it. So you're going to have to kind of figure out what you like best. I can definitely say if I weren't to use these, I would probably give Grumbacher or Golden's a good chance. And I probably should give them a chance anyway, like a serious chance, like buy a few more colors at least. And try painting just with that to see if I find any real difference. But I've used the Liquitex Basics for so long. It's almost to the point now where I've adapted my technique to work with those paints because that's what I started with. And it's just comfortable for me. So that was a lot of words to say. Yes, I recommend Liquitex Basics. Okay, I got a little bit overdone there with the black. I'm just going to remove a little bit of that. Just kind of soften that a bit. Let's see. Sarah said, I love your perspective on this painting. Is it something you only notice after... Oh, no, it's something you only notice after... I can't read. My eyes are tired. After you give the painting a second look, it makes me want to challenge myself. You should. And thank you. Let's see. Art by Sam Patterson said, are craft acrylics considered archival? No, not usually. They're usually not light fast, and they're kind of crap to work with. They're really thinned down. No, absolutely would not recommend. Words are, whoops. Kylie said, words are hard. Thank you. Okay. Oh, am I caught up? I'm caught up. Nice. Okay. Oh, I have a little bit of coffee left. It's a good thing I like cold coffee. That is ice cold. Okay. Back to this. Let's see if I can get a whole bunch of these done pretty quickly and start on some highlights. Christy said, I never heard, why can't I read? I never heard your overall opinion on golden fluid paint. The one, I get these mixed up because their names are so similar and I don't use them enough to really say one way or another. The one for the airbrush, one of them is called golden fluid for airbrush, but they have another fluid. I've used the one for the airbrush, if that's the one you're talking about, and I love it. It's definitely turned into my go-to airbrush paint. So yeah, oh my gosh, I do not have the right water balance here. That is a big glob of, well, it's a big glob. There we go. But yeah, no, the one that I use for the airbrush, I absolutely love. I love the bottles. I like how the water comes out, or the paint drops come out of that bottle versus the Holbein. The big difference between Holbein, I have it clog the airbrush, I would say less, but now that I'm using better practices on taking care of my airbrush and thinning, putting a couple drops of, what is it called? Fluid medium? I don't know. I can't think of things. It's not in front of me, so I'm not going to even try to remember that. That's not happening. But I put a few drops of that in, and it helps it to not clog at all. So initially, when I first started using it, I think I tried it with my older airbrush, which was in really bad condition. It needed to be soaked out. It was clogging constantly because of bad user practice on keeping my airbrush clean. But now that I've got the newer Grex where things really don't clog, I've not had an issue either with the golden. And so when I'm choosing my colors, I almost always choose golden. Like when I that's kind of how I judge what product I like more. When I go to use it, when I'm not thinking, okay, I'm making a video on this art supply, which supplies, because I have I've got several different types of airbrush paint. I've got several different types of colored pencils. Which one do I just naturally grab for? Like, I know I'm going to be happy with this one. And I find myself grabbing for the golden airbrush paint more than the Holbein. If it says anything. Maybe I'm just weird. Maybe I just like the basket it's in better. You never know. Let's see. Jesse said, I feel like there are a bunch of rocks just sitting on the canvas. Yeah, and I'm going to fix that. You are absolutely right. It almost looks like it's a sticker of rocks just stuck on this, like it's not a part of that painting. And that's one of the things that I'll do, and you'll see this in the finished one or sooner on Patreon, but I have to make sure that it looks like it's a part of the painting. And right now, when I get these first layers, it doesn't. And this is kind of an example of not calling your painting finished too soon. Yeah, there's rocks. It looks like there's rocks. So done, right? No, obviously not. Those rocks don't look like they're a part of the painting at all. I've got to make sure that happens by multiple layers on top. So yeah, this is a good example of what happens if you were to call something finished too soon. Awake Artist said, what do you think about Saks paint products? I have never heard of it, so I have no opinion at all. Kind of concerns me that I've never heard of it. I am not one to, for the most part, I don't like new companies. I'm glad that they do it, but I'm not willing to risk my work usually on unheard of brands. I've had companies contact me wanting to promote things, or even now heard of brands like, what is it? Artzea spams the crap out of their crap nonstop. They've got some weird business practices, like not paying people who promote their stuff on time. And there's some weirdness going on there, but I don't trust products that come up out of the blue. Super spam, super market. They're great at marketing. I have no problem against that. And I have no problem with someone using a product like that when they're just learning. But for me, my stuff needs to last. I sell my stuff. My stuff is not cheap, I guess, depending on how you look at it. But it's not an inexpensive thing. I can't afford to use a product that isn't as light fast as the company claims it is. I can't afford to use a product that starts to flake or chip or have problems. And while I do like to test new products, there are certain things that I'm not willing to risk. And that, like, they're a new brand of acrylics that I've never heard. Now it's entirely possible. Everyone knows who Saks is but me. So, that could be a thing. But if it's something that I've not heard of, I'm always a bit hesitant. I mean, of course, you can do research and see what reviews have. But, you know, when you're talking about a company like Liquitex or Winsor & Newton or Golden, Holbein, all of these, there's a lot of these companies that I'm trying to think of more off the top of my head and it's just not happening. But they've been around for a very long time. Their products are tested and we know that they're going to last. We know that they're good. We know that the company's going to be around for a while. A lot of these companies that just pop up out of the blue, and it's funny for me to go off on this rant because I know nothing about that company. They, like I said, may have been around since, 1800. I have no idea. But a lot of these companies, not that acrylics have been, but whatever. I'm not going to use logic in my thought process, but a lot of these companies come so quickly and leave very quickly, and you're stuck with a painting that maybe you spent 2 weeks, 2 months, whatever on, and then to find out that the products weren't as good as the company advertised. I don't know. I'm not willing to test that. So certain things, like I will test brushes. I will test, I don't know. It just depends on the company, I guess. Too often companies come up and I just don't trust them. Apparently I'm some sort of conspiracy theorist. Let's see. Nick said, learning on colored pencils first. I'm finding the translucency of the Liquitex works similar. Multiple layers to increase saturation and value. Yeah, definitely, especially because you're used to polychromos. Very similar in the way that we build that up and you let the previous layer show through. Even more so, you have more control over that with acrylics. Actually, I like it better with acrylics for doing glazing type things than with colored pencils. So yeah, that's going to be, you definitely have a good understanding of that from your colored pencil experience. Let's see. Kathy said, what colors are you using on the rocks? Anything other than the black? They were painted with just a grayish tone, whatever the gray I mixed. I think there was some blue and green mixed into with it, which doesn't matter. It's all going to get covered. And then right now, yeah, I'm just using black today for the initial layering. And then I will glaze color on top of it so it doesn't stay flat black. Right now, I'm just worrying about like values, getting that in there. Sarah said, okay, that is not you're showing someone how to ask a question. So Christy said, thank you so much for the info. Good to know. You are welcome. Okay. Now, back to work. Ooh, coffee. Now it's gone, and I am sad. Just a little smudge there. And if you start getting that bumpy look where it's like that dry brush look, you know you need more water, whether it be on the brush you're blending with or the brush that you applied it with. There's not enough water going on there, or your canvas is just too rough. That can also contribute, but that's a good way to know. And Jesse said you should start a conspiracy theory Thursdays. Oh, yeah. I'm insane enough I probably could. It'd be entertaining, that's for sure. Actually, YouTube started to block so it doesn't show up on filters conspiracy theories. I like watching conspiracy theories. Like the more ridiculous and obviously unbelievable, the better for me. It's like they're just so entertaining to watch. But now YouTube is filtering those because they call, it's fake news and we don't want to spread it. And I'm thinking, if someone thinks some of this stuff is, I mean, some conspiracy theories obviously would be true. They're just not widely believed. I don't know. But some of them are so out there. I'm like, man, stop removing those from the searches. Those are fun because they're hilarious. Hold on 1 second. Do I need to answer this right now? Oh, I have a message. I will have to... Oh, that's a long message. That's going to take me a while to respond to. We'll have to wait. Okay. Maybe one of these days I'll get caught up on some emails. I am way behind. Man, I am looking forward to being done with the moving and packing because I'm trying to fit in packing, which I already have a very busy schedule. So trying to fit packing in on top of that has certainly been a challenge. I did remove all my curtains, if you can see behind me. Those all got removed and the holes patched on the walls. So I'm starting to see some progress. make sure when you draw the pebbles, you want to get variation in shape. You don't want them all to look exactly the same. And even here, like I mentioned earlier, I'll come through and put some little teeny guys like kind of sprinkled in between some of these and adjust the color. I'll be doing some glazing before I do the blue. Some of these will have a little bit more of a reddish tone, some a little bit more of a purple tone. I'll get a bit of variation in these. You don't have to make pebbles. I mean, it depends on what you're looking for. Christy likes no logic in my thought process. I'm glad someone does. Gail Perkins says, Ancient Aliens is accommodating me. Oh my gosh, is that the one that History Channel does? Which is hilarious. I'm just like, wow, that's... Oh my gosh. So I tried watching I love documentaries. Love them. Historical documentaries. Anything about the past. And I like to watch, like I went through a thing. What was the one? There were two that I was watching recently, but one of the big ones, Roanoke was one. And then another one was that I watched more of were about the witch trials. It's just crazy how people treated each other and how they would I didn't realize the witch trials were not just about like a religious thing. It was all very, very much a way to what? Your neighbor is rude to you? She's a witch or he's a witch. Like the things people did and said was just, wow, horrible. Yeah, horrible. Anyway, so I'm watching all these documentaries and I came across a historical one, like when you go down the YouTube rabbit hole. One that was a historical one was recommended for, I think it was for the Dark Ages. And the guy, one of the things he said in there, and it's you couldn't take him seriously anyway. I mean, even the commenters were like, this sounds like a parody of a documentary, but it was supposed to be real. And it was like a History Channel thing. And he made a comment that he was trying to prove a point about something or another. And he's like, using art as an example of the time. And he's like, well, art doesn't lie. I'm sorry, what? That's what I do with my art. The painting that I'm looking at over here with light bulbs hanging from a tree that is growing out of the earth with Saturn in the distance. It's not truth. I thought that was the funniest thing. I'm like, I cannot take your documentary. No, I mean, he has said a lot of stuff where you're like, I'm sorry, what? But when he said that about art, that art doesn't lie. It's like, oh, you don't know any artists who paint anything that's we're creative. That's what we do. I mean, yeah, it can reflect reality, but usually they don't. And even a lot of the historical paintings, they would over exaggerate certain things to get a message or a point across. But that doesn't mean that scene was truth. There's a lot of symbolism used, and there's a lot, you don't even know if the artist who painted it was wrapped real tight. They could have been completely freaking insane. You don't know. It was a long time ago. But I was just like, wow, that is one of the funniest things I have heard. Art doesn't lie. Huh. Let's see. Christina said, I think I have over 50 unfinished canvases. I know I'm only months into my acrylic journey, and I know I've heard you can just gesso over them and start over. Is that correct? Absolutely. Now, depending on the canvas, you may get to a point where the gesso doesn't stick really well. I do know that I've been very happy with Liquitex gesso. That one has kind of been my go-to. I've used it for years, and I'm not saying there aren't other good gessos. That's just the one I know for sure works very well. But yeah, if you gesso it, you may end up with a bit of texture underneath, but sometimes, or it's bumpy where you could see brush strokes, sometimes that looks really neat on the painting you paint on top of it. Or even if a little bit of it shows through, a little bit of, let's say you could see some certain lines from your previous layers, you didn't gesso it super thick, sometimes that looks really cool too. I've let that work for me on paintings. So yeah, no, you absolutely can do that. And I've done it a few times. I haven't done it a ton of times, but the few times that I did it, I was happy with the results. And when you gesso over it, you typically are making the canvas a bit smoother because you keep putting more and more layers on it. So you end up with a smoother canvas to paint on. So, added bonus there. But yeah, do that. Don't throw the canvas out. Try them that way. And you can, as long as it's, decent gesso, paint, all that, everything's good. You can still sell the painting, even though something else was on top of it. And a lot of really famous paintings throughout history, the restorers have gone through and they could see something was painted underneath it. So artists have been doing that forever, pretty much. Art doesn't lie. Let's see. Gail said, it's the show with the guy that has the vertical hair. I've seen that. My father-in-law watches that. I remember walking through the room when he was watching that and listening to a few statements he says, and it's like, there's no way he's serious. He has to be he cannot believe some of the crap he's it's hilarious. I'm with you. It's a comedy. Huge fan. So they said, when I mix the blue, I have by Liquitex Basics, Ultramarine Blue. It comes out very purpley blue. Is that phthalo blue that you mixed in with the white? Yes. This is phthalo blue, so it's going to be closer to green on the color wheel. Ultramarine, closer to purple on the color wheel. So they're both great paints. great colors. It just depends on what look you're going for. For me, this needs to have a green tint. So ultramarine. Wow. God, can I sleep now? Ultramarine is not the right choice, or wouldn't be the right choice for this, I mean. But it just depends on what you're looking for. But yeah, you are correct there. Yeah, speaking of, it's kind of funny, ArtZaya and companies that have some kind of like questionable practices. Last week in the live stream where I was painting, somebody had asked a question. It was a good question, something about, I think, what brushes I recommend. I forget what it was. Asked what I recommended. ArtZaya came to my video, commented on my video, and gave wrong information. Gave that like, oh, we recommend using a palette knife and a paintbrush or something like really generic. Like that's not, one, it's not helping. Two, I know what you're doing. I declined working with you guys several times when you wanted to pay me. So now you're just going to leave comments and then tell people when someone else, they respond like, oh, what paint do you recommend? We recommend ArtZaya or something like that. I don't remember. But it was like, really? You guys are shady. I am not a fan. I will not be trying that just for your business practices alone. Well, I mean, I already wouldn't have, but I totally forgot about that till right now. It was the weirdest, like, wow, I've not seen a company. I think it's cool when art supplies respond to people. Like Derwent, I think, has responded to people on the Derwent Inktense. And I think it's cool, and it's not done in a sleazy way. But I really like when art companies get involved and are looking at the feedback people leave about their product and wanting, and that's what Derwent did. They want to know what you guys think about their stuff. So stuff like that I think is really cool. But yeah, ArtZaya, the way they did, I forget how it was worded. I screenshotted it to send to my friend because it was like another YouTuber. I was like, are you kidding? Like, I can't believe a company is being so sleazy on trying to push their products that they're going to a YouTuber who has declined to work with them and leaving comments that are just like, what? Are you seriously? Amber said, sometimes when I reuse a canvas or I try to put on many layers, the water takes off paint from the layers beneath or the new paint won't stick. I'm even sure to let the paint dry. What kind of paint are you using? Because usually when I've seen that happen, it's from crap acrylics. Like Reeves is one that I've seen it do with. I'm trying to think, Reeves, a lot of the generics like Hobby Lobby, Michael's generic, Artist Loft or whatever. I've seen it happen with a lot of those paints where that happens. It could be that if too much water was mixed with it, that will contribute to that problem. Two, I've seen it happen just because it's crap acrylics, and those low budget ones, they don't work for, and I've seen it with oil paints too, so it's not just acrylic. I've seen where some of these budget paints, while they're okay to get used to, it's kind of hard to learn when they won't do the techniques that I use. What I'm doing right now on some of those paints would have lifted previous layers, no matter how dry they were. Like, I mean, there was a time with oil paint, I had a student using, it was Bob Ross paint. Now, Bob Ross paint, I'm not saying it's a bad paint. It works for Bob Ross style paintings. That's what it's made for, so it's good for that. But for the way that I layer and glaze, we would put down a layer, we'd let it dry for a week or two, we go to put the next layer, first layer, lift it off, because Bob Ross's paints are not intended for glazing and layering in that way. So, depending on the type, it likely is the type of paint that you're using that is causing that. Royal Langnickel or whatever that one is. I've seen that one do it before too. Now, to be fair, I have not tried Reeves or Royal Langnickel in like 15 years. For all I know, they changed the formula and they're amazing now. I don't know. So, you may want to do a bit more research if you are considering those. I don't want to make it sound like, oh, it's a terrible paint and it's going to lift, because I have not tried those specific ones in so long. I had students that had brought them to class years ago, but and I hated them. But maybe they changed. I don't know. I mean, some companies will improve their product. Derwent's a good example of that. Kylie said, oh my God, talking about conspiracy theories and my power just went out. I had to resort to watching you on my phone. See, someone doesn't want us talking about conspiracy theories. Beck said, artists may paint crazy things, but how would an artist in 500 BC know what a spacesuit looked like? Food for thought. Well, I don't know if I've seen, how many spacesuits are there? I don't know. I'm not sure. Dreams or, I don't know. I mean, we can say the same thing about me. God, I'm trying to think of some of the random crap I've painted looking around my room. I don't know what a broken moon with a ribbon going through space and a chickadee sitting on said moon would look like. I have no clue. How would I know to paint that? We paint weird crap. So I don't put too much weight into it. Maybe there's something to it. I'm not saying there never would be. I'm just saying I would never make the statement, art doesn't lie. That's where I had the problem. I'm not saying that there would never be truth to certain things, but I mean, I can look around at half the stuff I painted and it's like, I don't even know where I came up with half this stuff. I do not know what do I have sitting around me? A lot of things. I've got a burning building over here, or burning, let's see, planets with a city that's burned and broken down, that's on fire in the middle of stars in it with broken sheet music all over. How would I know what that would look like? I made it up. You know, that's where I have a problem with the statement, art doesn't lie. I sure wasn't telling any truths in that one. Does it mean that somebody couldn't? I don't know. I just think it's a silly statement to assume anything an artist over the years painted, they couldn't have known what that looked like. Like, I don't know, maybe they were just really bad at rendering what they did see. There. I mean, how many people do you know of who painted a dog and you're like, are you sure that's a dog? In the future, someone's not going to look at them and go, they saw a futuristic dog or a futuristic breed. They were just bad at, they weren't yet very good at what they were doing. So that's also a possibility. I don't know. Let's see. But you're right. Food for thought. It's fun to think about. Down on the Farm Studio said there are people, though, that believe the oddest and most unrealistic things. They share satire articles and fake unmentaries as a reality and believe the nonsense and stories are real. Odd. Oh, you know what always makes me laugh? And I'm going to get some anger on this one. How many people believe the earth is flat? That one blows me away. Are fascinating. I love watching flat earther videos. They're funny. They're really funny. That one, those are quite entertaining. And I'm inevitably going to have something like I will have when I paint space scenes, no matter what, I will end up, and I just delete the comments. I'm like, some of them I leave because I think it's really funny. But I'm like, let me help you not look stupid. I'm just going to delete that comment for you. But I will inevitably have people get upset at me. We'll see if I get extra thumbs downs on this one for painting anything about the planets or the earth and whatever, because they insist everyone else also believe that the world is flat. Someone shared something with me recently that was really funny. It said if the world was flat, there'd be nothing left on it because the parrots would have already thrown everything off the edge. If you have a bird, you know how true that is. Okay, this brush is starting to get I'm just making mud. That's why I keep having to switch back to the clean one. So that lets me know it is time to switch my brush that I'm blending with. I'm making a mess. I keep having to clean up where I get too much black. So that means this brush has picked up too much black, the one that I'm blending with. But the problem is when I rinse it, it's going to be too soft because it's already getting kind of soft. So I'm going to rinse that out and I'm going to grab another one. Actually, I'm going to rinse both these brushes out. Now, another thing I want to show you, see the paint? I've got a little bit of a gap between where the paint is and the end of the brush, but I'm getting close. That's also a good time to rinse this out before it keeps working its way up closer to the handle. So try to keep that in good condition. Okay, let's see. I should have some brushes I can blend with down here. Let me find one about the right size. That'll work. Grab a couple of, whoops. Let's see. Heather said, speaking of Derwent, have you heard from them yet? I haven't even contacted them. I'm going to wait until after I move and I'm settled and I'm actually ready to do a demonstration with their product. Because I want to do a good job with them because I know I love the pencils. So I want to do like a really elaborate project. So I'm going to just wait until I've moved. I also don't want them sending something because it takes really long to get here if they send it from Europe. I don't know if they would send it from the manufacturer, or they have a distributor here, or from the UK. So if this address is only good for another month, so I'm going to wait to contact them. If you wonder what we're talking about getting the full set of the new Derwent Lightfast. Let's see. Kathy said, are you talking about Arteza products? I did not know it was pronounced that way. Arteza. I probably say it wrong. I think it is not, nothing is pronounced how I say it. I never pronounce anything right. Never use me as an indication of how you should say something correctly. We're lucky I get my own name right. Kylie said, I'm addicted to the flat earth videos on YouTube. I'm glad I'm not the only one. God, those are funny. Susan said the Flat Earthers website states it has members all over the globe. Seriously. There was one. So they had a thing. They have this, like, it's a GIF or GIF or however you want to say it, because I won't say anything right there. I'm definitely not saying that word right. But it shows this thing of how, like, the Earth, like, well, if it's flat, then how come sometimes it's dark? Good question. Well, the Earth, and it shows that they cycle in a way, and this is what causes the seasons, and it is the most, like, please stop sniffing the glue. Like, this is really, oh, it's good. Go to their website and look at, like, they've got the GIFs or GIFs or however, it is the most entertaining thing. And they have these statements that you're reading and going, you realize you're contradicting yourself. Like, it's, oh, they're fun. They are a lot of fun. Zia said, sorry, I know I'm saying that wrong too. Your name looks really pretty though. Makes dating art really hard for historians. Yeah, I would imagine it would be hard to date. I don't know how historians do what they do. I love it. God, any historical documentary. If you guys know of a good historical documentary, not one that's just a joke. If you know of a good one you think I should watch on pretty much any topic, link me here or link in the comments once the video's over so I can come back and look at them, because I'm always looking for new ones to watch. There's lots. I'm trying to think of some of the ones I've watched. I've watched so many, but yeah, I'm always looking for new ones. I like to have them on while I'm painting or while I'm working on something else. I just leave them on so I can kind of listen. Let's see. Sully said, watch the video by Jubilee YouTube channel, Flat Earthers versus Scientists. It's so funny and you will not be disappointed. I thank you for that recommendation. Oh my God, I've been having so many thumbs downs on this video. It amazes me how many there are. Like, you would think, well, what are the chances of a flat earther watching you? Apparently pretty common. God, some of the comments I get from people. It's funny. Okay, let's see. Christina said, I want to say thank you for answering the questions. I've been on a different live streams with acrylic painters. Never once got my question answered. I do really appreciate that. Oh, well, thank you for asking the questions. Because apparently if you guys don't ask art questions, I ramble about conspiracy theories and flat earth. So, you know, you guys are doing me a favor by asking actual art questions to keep me on track. Yes, I have a gallon of water. I'm very thirsty. Let's see. Sarah said there's a video about who started the flat earth conspiracy theory and another that includes an animation of what running on a flat earth would really be like. Ursi said, have you tried any new teas to drink at? No, I've been pretty hooked lately. Oh, I've got my paint. Why don't I actually paint while I ramble? I've been pretty hooked lately on there's an herbal blue tea by Stash that is like my favorite right now. So that with the raw honey I got from Nick Edgar. Oh my gosh, so good. That's been like my addiction. And I need to make another pot of it. Or wait, pitcher. Pitcher is the word I'm looking for. Because I am currently out. I'll probably make a hot batch of that tonight. Let's go ahead and pull that shadow. This whole area will be darker, and then I'll throw some little pebbles later. Let's see. The Earth is flat thing has been disproved so many times for ages. I'm surprised that the moon is just made of cheese theory didn't last longer. Yeah, Pete, what is it they say the Earth is actually, or not the Earth, the moon, there's a conspiracy theory about the moon being like an alien spaceship or something. There's a whole thing on that too. Let's see. Whoops, that scrolled too far. Meredith says, watch Sci-Man Dan on YouTube. He has fun against them, but uses actual science. Oh, I'll have to look at that. Shannon Wolf said, Flat Earth Society, this is your brain on drugs. Cheap ones and lots of them. Just a guess. I think that should be their motto. Joseph said, in order for two flat earthers from... I can't read this. In order for two flat earthers from two different places to prove the Earth is flat, one of them has to lie to the other. Soleil said, my mom was a flat earther. I spent every day listening to her nonsense. No, see what I mean? It's common. Like, it's weirdly common. We already went, already one person who knows somebody who, like, it's super, one of my good friends, her sister, she thinks that she might be less or figuring it out, but so there's someone directly I mean, not related to me, but somebody who's very close to one of my best friends whose sister is, or was, I don't know if she still is, but yeah. Beck said, have you tried watching the show Fake or Fortune? It's about finding out if the historical paintings of people own are really painted by the artist they claim did it. Oh, I haven't. That sounds interesting. That also sounds super depressing if someone finds out the thing they thought was so fancy was less fancy. I'd rather live in a world of delusion and think my fancy thing was fancy. I don't think I'd want to know the truth. Let's see. I bet your videos' closed captions are picked up in search engines. That could be how they find you, certain keywords. Yeah, I mean, anytime, I think it's when I post anything to do with the earth, or like when my space and space scenes in any of those. And I'm not the only one. Of my friends who's a YouTuber has the same thing. Like when she posts anything where it's planets and stuff, she inevitably will get somebody on there. The earth is flat. It's not real. So yeah, there's some special cupcakes out there. I make fun of that. I'm not saying I want to pick on them or tell them that they're dumb. It's just a silly conspiracy that's fun. Well, I guess I am laughing, huh? Yeah, I'm laughing at them. That's mean. I don't... Like, how do you be like, don't be a bully? But seriously, that's just a ridiculous theory. It's hard to be nice about things when people are thinking the earth is not round. Okay, I'll stop now. Let's see. Elaine said, no thumbs down yet, keep going. Well, I'm sure they'll come. Nick said, check out a 4-part documentary on the I don't even know how to say that, which means I have not watched this yet. Plantagenet dynasty. They made Game of Thrones look tame, and it's a history, so no spoilers. Ooh. Okay, yes, please. Also, Nick, can you go ahead and send me a message on Facebook with that so I don't forget, because I definitely want to look at that. Yay. Ramzaya said, thank you for the ego boost. When creator of so many beautiful things says your picture is pretty. Aw, you're welcome. Casey said, I'm trying hard to maintain a gap. I'm trying to read apparently and not doing a very good job. I'm trying so hard to maintain a gap between the end of my paintbrush, but I'm desperately failing. You know, it gets easier with time. And even me, a couple times tonight, I've definitely built up. It's starting to run down just from the water a little bit, but I'll rinse my brush out when it happens. Just rinse your brush really well and then go ahead and reload, while you get used to that. That's, very, very normal. That's for sure. And even, like I said, even with me, I've been doing this for years and I still, like earlier tonight, I caught it and was like, oh, that's getting low. It's time to rinse that before I destroy it. Eventually, your brushes will most likely end up building up paint there. And you can help it by using a good brush cleaner. The Old Masters is my favorite. It's kind of like a block of soap in a tub. That one is definitely my go-to paint brush cleaner. There's pink soap is okay. Is it pink soap? Pink something. That was okay. Some people have luck using Goo Gone and stuff to loosen up brushes. The thing you have to watch about with that, Goo Gone will get rid of glue. What's holding those brushes in there? Glue. I don't really want to get rid of the glue, so you've got to be careful how you soak that. But some people have had really good luck using that product to save brushes that were so damaged they weren't going to be able to use it anyway. So that's a possibility, but you know, be careful with that because that starts soaking into the end of the brush there too much, and you may just have all the bristles fall out anyway. So do be careful. But the Old Masters is definitely my favorite go-to brush cleaner, and that will help your brushes stay good longer. You can just soak that, like really let it soak into the brush overnight or whatever. Like I'll usually clean the brush when I need to clean them really well. I will rinse the brush with water and lather it up really good, rinse it out, and then lather it again and let it soak overnight. And that will, that saved a lot of brushes for me. Let's see. Rob said, are you nervous at all about moving your studio? You should do a video of all the cool discoveries as you pack it all up. I love that idea, and I'm so exhausted. I'm like, would I remember to do it? Would I like put the effort into doing extra work? I should though. That's actually not a bad idea. I like the idea. Let's see if I would actually follow through with it. I haven't found anything too crazy. I mean, I can always pull out any old sketchbook or whatever. I think I only have one. I think I've already shown you guys that. But yeah, there haven't been too many so far, anything that's super interesting. It's mostly me wandering around aimlessly, trying to remember what the heck I was supposed to be doing or what I was working on. My house at the apartment at the moment looks like an episode of Hoarders, like bad, which is hard for me because I really, really like everything to be very clean and in order, and it is not. Also, fun fact, did you know you were supposed to wash curtains? Because I didn't, and oh wow, dust. They've been there for 4 years now, and they, like, you could smell, when I pulled them down, you could smell the dust on them, which was kind of like, wow, I didn't know. I don't even know. Maybe you guys know. How often are you even supposed to wash them? So they're all washed. They handled the wash very well. I wasn't sure if they'd fall apart or not, but they all came out good. They're all, actually, curtains laying on top of every surface right now, drying out. But yeah, turns out you're supposed to wash curtains or they get super dusty. Like, that's kind of funny because I'm so, like, neurotic about dusting every week. Well, not since I started packing stuff, but normally I'm, like, really big on everything being clean. And I had no idea those were that dusty. Apparently common sense is not my forte. Let's see. Sarah said, the videos you mentioned are from channels Today I Found Out and Vsauce. I don't think I've heard of that one. Maybe I have. Maybe I just don't remember the name. Whoops. Callie says cupcakes. Let's see. Down in the troll studio. Yeah, even trolls need hobbies. You are correct. Christina said, OMG, my brother who is in the Marines and works on airplanes and is like a genius truly believes the earth is flat, and I don't understand where the logic sits. Yeah, see, and it's not like someone who believes those things. The people who I mean, okay, some of them, obviously their mom and their aunt are the same person, but not all of them. Like, some of them are really intelligent. And I'm like, how what? I don't understand. Like, you're making my brain skip. I do not understand why you are not a stupid person. Why do you I don't know. Gail said, ever seen old paintings prove time travel is real? One shows a 1700 girls walking in the woods with a cell phone. Her face is glowing. Truth. She is reading a Bible, thus the glow. Oh my gosh, that is so... That's funny. And no, I've not heard of that. Actually, I want to... Now, when the show, does it show the actual truth? Or are they like, no, look, it was a cell phone, and then you had to find out it was actually a Bible that they painted glowing? I'm curious about that, but that's interesting. See, then that's what I mean. That's one of the things that happens so often in paintings and what artists do, where you might think, well, how did the artist know there were going to be cell phones and that they would glow and all of this? There's so much symbolism with art. I mean, not with mine. My art is pretty straightforward, like random light bulb. There's no symbolism there. Well, sometimes I guess there has been, but there's so much like that we paint that's we're making something symbolic of something else. So if someone tries to read into it too literally, then it's kind of weird. I'm going to create a few of these little pebbles back here to help just get that transition a little bit more. Once I get into these rocks in the background, I'll have to also put some highlights in a few of them. A lot of this is going to be covered with the symbol the Aquashella logo is going to be like this big thing here with a snail in the center. So a lot of this won't show, so I'll put even more detail once I get the logo blocked in. Rhea said, oh, that scrolled too far. Okay, up to where I have a question from. There we go. Rhea said, watch Auschwitz if you haven't. I watched some things on that. My gosh, what people have done to people is just terrible. But yes, that's actually one that I have not spent too much time watching documentaries on because it was so hard to watch. But no, that's, I should. You are correct. Rhonda said it's called spring cleaning. See, and now I understand the term. It's funny because I was thinking that when I was cleaning the curtains. I'm like, I don't understand the spring cleaning thing. I clean everything every week. I don't understand like what. Oh, maybe they meant that for curtains. That crossed my mind when I was doing all the laundry with the curtains. I'm like, wow, I am 4 years behind apparently on that. Let's see. Ramzia said, are you sick of me saying your name wrong? I apologize. I'm sure I've said it wrong every single time. It's probably been different every single time too. Packing up art time lapse. You know, if I hadn't already started, I may set up a GoPro for when I put everything. Oh no, because it's going in 3 different rooms. I'm taking this entire room. Will go in 3 different spaces. One is a closet, one is the studio, and then one is the office. That's not a bad idea. At least when I'm trying to think how I can make that work because I'm kind of like, I can't pack all my supplies. That's the problem. I can only pack a few things here and there because I still need the supplies for continuing to work before we move. I'm trying to think how to make I need to think more on how to make that happen and still have what I need out. I like that idea. Anne said, why do you think art professors don't let you paint from imagination, only from sources? Because they want you to get better. If you only paint from imagination, now I don't mean imagination like, let's say I paint some weird surreal thing. I still look at like, okay, there's a tree in this. I need to find a photo of a tree to get an idea of how the bark looks, how things bend. There's a cheetah and I need to get a photo of how that cheetah looks, even though I'm painting it completely different than otherwise the reference photo. They're teaching you how to paint things more accurately. Everyone has this thing, especially young artists, think that if you paint, you're better if you paint from memory. You just have to remember things like what you want to do portraits and you're going to paint that from memory. That's not how it works. You need to have a reference and they're teaching you to learn to see things accurately. Now, once you've gotten to where, let's say with me, I painted just hundreds or thousands of dolphins and orcas. Or well, dolphins, I guess, redundant there. But I painted so many, I can make something fairly realistic without a photograph because, I mean, we're talking thousands. But if you ask me to paint a flamingo, even though I painted, 5, 6, 7, 10, I don't know, 20. I've actually painted a lot of flamingos, but even then, I still need a reference photo or it's not going to really look super realistic. You're going to end up with something that looks very cartoony. So they're teaching you to see things accurately, and that's what you want to learn how to do that. Another tip I have for you, if you are going to college, I don't think you need to go to college for art. So just to be clear, I don't think it's a must-do thing. But if you're going to do it and you're going to pay an insane amount of money and put yourself into an insane amount of student loan debt, learn what you can from your professors. If they teach you how to do a style you hate, if they teach you how to use a technique you hate, if they teach you how to use a medium you hate, I don't care what it is, learn their way. Because even if it's just one little nugget of information that you can then apply to your style, your preference of doing things, why are you paying them if you're not going to learn their methods? So always, 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 I'm not saying that you don't, another one of my tangents, my brain went off on a lot. I told you I'm extra tired tonight. But if you want to learn what are you paying them for if you're not? Always learn to do whatever it is they're trying to teach you, do as good of a job their way. Because I've seen a lot where students are like, no, I'm going to go home and do my homework and I'm going to do something completely opposite of what they asked for. And I don't care what my grade is. You do that on your own time. For your class, do what they ask and learn what you can. You're paying them. Learn whatever. You never know. There's books are an example of this. I can buy a book and get one tip, only one that I even like in the entire book. It was still worth it for that one tip that I wouldn't have gotten if I didn't give that book a chance. And I think that's the same when you talk about professors. But when it comes to they only want you to work from reference, yeah, because they're teaching you to do things well. And that's how, if you're painting in realism, photorealism, it's in the term. Photo means I used a photograph as a reference. I mean, you can do photorealism from still life as well, but or from life, not still, it doesn't have to be still life, but you want something to look at if you want your work to be very accurate. And any artist that you look at who they are painting in realism, they are all using some sort of reference. It doesn't mean that they copy that reference exact. You don't have to do that, but unless your teacher is telling you to right now, in which case, like I was saying, do what your teacher tells you to, but you still are going to look at reference. That's something, if you are interested in realism, that's just how we do it. So if you don't want your work to look like a cartoon. Good question, though, that I just answered way too long. Angela said, I've been so caught up in the conversation, I just realized how many rocks were done. Then questioned, have you only been using black this whole time? Yeah, today was just black. That's all I used on this. And then it's just whatever color was, on the rock itself peeking through is what you're seeing. So now if I want to come through and start getting highlights, I'm going to just use titanium white because that's what I have out. And, well, I'm lazy. So we'll start with that for some of these highlights on top. Let's see. It shakes the curtain out, washes them at least once a season. They retain odors as well as dust. In your new house, airing them outside on nice days will be easier. Yeah, definitely. Although I think I'm just going to wash everything now. I'm really big on dog blankets, whatever. I want everything washed all the time. Quilts aren't a good, when I get my blankets or even quilts, I usually get cheap ones because I want to wash it more often than you're technically supposed to make them last a long time. So, yeah. Now I know. Now that I know, I don't even know if I would go a full year in between washing the curtains and seeing how well they came out too. I don't know why I thought it would ruin them. I don't know where that idea popped in my head. It was, I don't know, maybe a flat earther told me. But yeah, I was surprised because I was super expecting them to just be destroyed. But I was like, it doesn't even matter if they get destroyed. I'm sure as heck not putting that dusty mess up on the backup. I really don't even know, like, how did I not smell I guess it was when I moved it and all the dust flew up is how I smelled it. But I'm like, how did I not smell the dust on those? Because once I removed them, oh wow, they were like sneeze fest. Let's see. Oh, I had Ursi's. Where did that go? Scrolling back up. Ursi said, I thought you're just supposed to throw the old curtains away and buy absolute new ones. See, that's what I thought too, honestly. That's why I was like, I don't know if they're going to go through the wash. I mean, they seem heavy duty, but I don't know. I don't know where that idea. I'm going to blame a flat earther must have told me. They've got some funny ideas. Rhonda said, don't worry, it's easier to move than to spring clean. I hope not, because moving is a pain. Elaine said, or the video setting up in the art studio. I think setting up the art studio, that for sure I'm going to do, like without a doubt. I have to make that happen because I think what I'm going to do is just set up my GoPro because that's mostly going to be done in a single day. I mean, I'll go back and perfect stuff, but I think that if I just set up a GoPro on like time lapse while I move everything in, or even the movers will be, although I guess maybe I don't want the movers in the video, or they may not want to be in the video. So I'm not sure how to go about that. But speaking of, I need to call them tomorrow and schedule that now that we know what our dates are. But yeah, I definitely, at least putting stuff away, the stuff I'll do on my own, at the very least, I could include. If I was super skilled at editing, I'd figure out how to blur the mover's face. I'm going to have to figure that out because I think that would be a really good one. And that shouldn't be too hard to do, at least for me, like putting stuff away myself. Anne said, thank you so much for explaining this. You are welcome. Thanks for asking. Christina said, it's my first live with you. You interact with people so much, it makes me wonder how you ever get artwork done. Apparently I don't, because normally I would be so much farther on my own. I go so slow. And that's not a bad thing. I can see why people love you. Oh, thank you. Elaine said, you're cracking me up. You should do more videos on no sleep. Let's see. Cindy said, we've been watching Faker Fortune, and it's really good. I think you would love it. They have a lot of videos on YouTube. I will definitely have to look it up. That sounds like something I would like. Angela said, it's amazing how much detail you can get with just one color and blending. It really is. And I think just understanding the brush, like for years, I spent so long trying to find any device, like when I first started painting, any device, like I had this weird thing that you would put liquid acrylic in and you could write your name with or whatever, and it always came out globby. I wasn't getting the fine details. I remember looking at an artist. I really admired Christian Lassen. Like he was just one of my absolute favorites. And well, I still do. But with the marine life, I love the way that he painted that. And you can see a lot of his influence in my work. I paint a lot of things very similar to the way he handles stuff. Not everything, but there is definitely like, anyway, can recognize the influence I've gotten from his pieces when I paint marine life now. But he used to outline everything with a thin black line. And that's what back then I used to do the same. I don't anymore because that's not how real life works. But I used to do that all the time. And I didn't understand how he's getting these thin lines. And I'm thinking, okay, well, it's the surface he's painting on because some of his paintings are on glass or acrylic, I think, not glass, maybe glass too. I don't know. But I was looking for every like weird surface, how you find a piece of acrylic to paint on. How do you find, there's got to be something that I'm not using. No, my issue was that I wasn't using the paintbrushes that I had correctly. It's just a liner brush. That's all you need. You can get super thin lines. You just have to get used to holding it and using, I mean, look how little that thin lines. You just have to get used to how to handle and hold that brush. Now, these white areas are going to appear way too bright, but once I glaze over them, this is what's going to help push them into the back. But I want that contrast there now. I've got to hype up my contrast a little bit more than what I want my end result to be, so that when I glaze and tone it down and use these dark colors on top of it, my darks and lights still really show through that. Again, you'll see that on the finished video. Let's see. Soleil says, what is the difference between titanium white, unbleached titanium white, and transparent mixing white? Ooh, good question. So titanium white, that is what I'm using here. Very opaque, just your standard normal white, opaque white. Unbleached titanium white is, I don't know if you can see it. Yeah, you kind of can. This color in the back corner, that's a little bit of a remnant of unbleached titanium white. Now I can mix that myself. Like I could take one of my brownish tones, like this kind of yellowy brown, and mix that in with white and have something very similar. But it gives you a bit more of a natural tone instead of bright white. So I actually use my unbleached titanium white in many cases more than my titanium white. because you don't want many things in your paintings to like the end result, you wouldn't want to be straight white. Now, again, I'm going to glaze over this so mine won't be straight white, but unbleached titanium white many times gives you a nicer, softer, more natural look, whether it be pet portraits, whatever it is you're painting. So that is that cream color. And then transparent mixing white is the same shade, you know, just white, like the titanium white. It doesn't have that cream color in it, but it's somewhat translucent, so you can glaze with it. It'll lighten the color without making it more opaque, which is what the titanium white, if you mix that in with the color, it makes it opaque. If you mix transparent mixing white, I can lighten the color without making it more opaque. So that is those three. I should do a video just comparing those three. Let's see. Well, then that scrolled too far. Where were we? Thanks, Olivia. You said hang curtains out to air on a good day every 6 months. Yeah, I think that's what I'm going to do is I'll probably wash them and then hang them out every 6 months. Although with all the construction going on where I'm moving, I'm pretty sure they would just get dirtier being outside. So I will probably just hang them, keep them indoors because it's going to be many years before all that construction is done. Let's see. Down on the Farm Studio said the wording with all these windows, you will have the curtains may fade in the sunny places over the years. Well, no, actually, they all have not mini blinds. The 2-inch would look. I think they're technically like a plastic or whatever blind. So we're not actually putting curtains in the new house everywhere. I will only have them in a couple of areas. Like I'll have blackout curtains for my bedroom, and then being that I sleep in the day, and then I will have the curtains that I have actually the curtains that were back here in the studio. Those are what are probably going to end up in the living room because I don't know that I need them in the studio anymore, since most of this will be, the majority of that anyway, will be in its own closet, a really big closet. So the where was I going? God, my brain just shut down. The only curtains will be on the edges, so sunlight won't actually, like, it's a decorative thing. They're pointless and only for looks and not actually in the sun. Some sunlight hit it, but they were also super, super cheap. So if I did have to replace them from fading, that's okay too. But you are correct. Yeah, am I still awake? I don't even know. The curtains that I had out on my balcony, those ones, when I took those down yesterday, were they faded. Like I didn't even realize how faded until you saw parts that were not exposed to the sun. Those faded bad they've been up for, I think, 3 years. I don't think they've been here up for the full 4 years, but those faded really bad. The only reason I had actually initially got them, we used to have the neighbors across from me had their balcony looked like an episode of Hoarders. It was just boxes and trash, and I don't even know how the apartments, because I found out later that's actually against their lease terms of service or whatever. So I don't know why they were allowed to do that so long, but I put up the curtains to kind of block it. And now that I've taken them down, we don't have them living there anymore. But now that I've taken it down, like I can see right into the neighbor's balcony and window. They must love the fact that I always leave this open, and they can see me too. It's actually really weird. I'm looking forward to moving. Let's see. Mara said, how many layers of glazes will it take to get the underwater look? It depends on how thick I put the paint. So if I thin it out a lot, like a lot of water, I'm going to do multiple layers. If I don't use as much water, I could get it done in one glaze. Now, in my case, I plan to airbrush this, so there won't be as much glazing with the paintbrush, so that's going to be different. And I'll just, with the same airbrush, keep going back and forth until I soften it out. So there's not a definite number because it would depend on how thin you are making each glaze. Let's see. Casey said, I'm currently painting some bubbles myself, and it looks more like a stone wall rather than a floor. How do I fix this? Oh, pebbles, not bubbles. Okay, the reason that this is happening, it's actually, hold on. Let's draw you a demonstration. I don't think that was good grammar. I think something went terribly wrong in how I worded that. Okay, so what number is this pencil? 2H. I think it'll show up. A darker one over here. Oh, wait, what's this pencil? I don't know. It's so old. It's worn off. Oh, 2B. That'll work better. I have these old, I hate these old, I'm not a fan of the turquoise Prismacolor graphite pencils, but I've had them for like 20 years and I just use them when I need, like for something like this where it's not an actual project. Okay. So what's happening? It's your perspective that is off. Let me find a paper to use here. Let me make sure that is showing up. Okay, good. Well, let's move this over here a little bit more. I think it'll show better. Hold on. Drink a gallon of water. Okay, so what is happening? You're drawing your pebbles, and they're all about the same shape, kind of round or oval, but like long. And see how they're all the same. You're not getting any perspective change here. You're building a wall. So, and I love how you described it that way, because that's exactly what it looks like when you do it this way. So just throw a few more on there. And they can even be, overlapping, but you're still building a wall. They're all too much the same. So what you want to do instead, so you want them to start going out this way, or, you want it to look like it's going back. So the pebbles up front are going to be, the big thing is that they stay oval, but the more they go back, they get more and more flat, more and more horizontal. You don't want round. And I mean, even the oval are too round. Look how I'm going to stretch these out. And as I get further and further back, they're going to get more and more flat. Smaller and flat. So it's not just about getting smaller as it goes back. It's about changing the shape so that they are more like long and stretched out this way versus this way. So this, as I continue drawing some of these, I'm not doing an amazing job, but you guys get the point. And you can have some that are a little bit more oval. You just don't want all of them that way, or not oval, but round. I hope that what you see is making sense, because the words sure are not going to. Whoopsie, too round. It's okay though. I'm just going to throw a few over it and around it. But I want to start, as I move my way back, get smaller, but also get more long and horizontal. This isn't tedious at all. Okay, but as we move back, look at how these ones start looking. Oh, I don't think you can, crap. No, wait, let me make sure this is showing, because it's overexposed. Hold on. Kind of not. Oh, wait, if I tilt it this way, you can see. Okay, there we go. So see how these ones here, they go up, they look like a flat wall. They're all kind of circle. Look what happens. Not only are they getting smaller as they go back, they get longer and more oval because of the angle that you're seeing them at. So that is what's going to make the difference in making it look like it's going back. And even some of these, some of them are too oval. That's okay. You just don't want all, I keep saying oval. Some are too tall. You don't want all of them so rounded. You start flattening things out. So maybe your first row takes up this much space. Your next row gets thinner as you move your way back. That is not a good example, but that's you get the point, I hope. That's the reason that you're doing that. It's an issue of the perspective, because you're drawing them all more circular, so they kind of look more like they go up in a wall versus flattening out. And really, that's going to be the same thing too. Let's say I'm drawing the ocean floor or a road going back. One of the things that people do, let's pull this back up, all the time, I'm just going to sketch this in my lap because it overexposes anyway. But I guess I can kind of do it down. No, it's too hard. One of the things people do is they will draw a road and they kind of go just up. Now, there are times that works, but it doesn't, it just looks like a pole going up. If you want to draw a road, let's say you're doing a landscape, you can even get the curves, but look how it flattens out. This starts looking like you've got a different perspective. You can have trees or whatever in there. But when you try to, even though it gets thinner as it goes out, it's not thin. Well, actually, that does fix a lot, but it's not the same. Or they'll do a wave for a road. I'm trying to get this so it'll show. But let's say you do a wave for a wavy road coming down, but it's kind of all the same. It's not thinning out. Look at how long horizontal, short diagonal, long horizontal, short diagonal. And this is also going to be the same. Let's say it's like a street or whatever. It's a really bad job, Lisa. Good job. By good job, I mean not good job. But it's that long horizontal that you want to start getting in. It's the same thing when you're drawing those pebbles. Kind of that long horizontal. Focus a little bit more on that than the more circular, that I keep saying oval for some reason, but the more circular where it's kind of taller this way. Flatten those out, and like here, the perspective of the road, that's going to make a really big difference for getting the depth that you're looking for. Now, that's not to say you can never have a road go kind of straight up. Occasionally that works, but it just shows what I'm talking about perspective-wise. Okay. Am I caught up? Whoa, am I actually caught up on questions? Whoa, it's a Christmas miracle. No, I'm not. I am not caught up at all. My Christmas miracle has failed. Along with my savings account. Thank you, closing costs. Let's see. Hold on. Wow. Okay, I am way behind on questions. So let's scroll up. So we've only got a few minutes. I'm going to go ahead. I'm done painting this for now. You get an idea of how I'm building this, how I'm using the liner brush, but let's get caught up on some of these questions so we can wrap up tonight. Okay, that one we got. That one we got. Here we go. Angela said, I'm getting ready to finally have a room of my own for my studio versus an art, versus any corner I can find, and hope you do a video of your new setup when you get to the new house. I definitely will. For sure, I will have the new setup. I want to try to get me actually putting stuff away because I think for B-roll, it would just be kind of fun. It wouldn't be like the whole thing. But that, and it's going to take me probably years to get that studio exactly how I want it. But yes, that is going, yes, I will do it. New home, I'll probably do the whole tour because I want to show the office and everything, all my work in space. Wow. That, suddenly I developed an accent. I apparently have been in Texas too long, or not enough sleep. Danae said, hi Lisa, I was wondering how you balance your work tasks and your personal tasks, like bills, cleaning the house, etc. How do you prioritize? They all have to be, balance is going to be, I guess, the key to anything. But what I did, and actually it's a video I have to edit tomorrow because I didn't get to record it today because today was a mess. But I'm going to show you how I did my schedule. But I basically made a list of, and I talked about this in the video about don't make the mistakes I've been making, but I made a list to come up with a schedule and wrote out everything I need to get done in a week, and then just kind of figured out where I could fit those things. How long should these things take and what days I wanted to do them. But yeah, I made an actual schedule, and oh, did it make a big difference. Now, as far as which I prioritize, I'm trying to think. I don't know that anything has so much priority. I mean, I have to get the things done that I need to get done, like bills, for example. Almost everything I do is on auto pay. So otherwise I don't get things paid. I'm really bad about that. And it kind of worries me because when we're moving, I guess the water company that we have is just prone to turning your water off for anything and saying your bill was late. If you send it to them, it sits on their desk. Like people have talked about, they went in and saw it on their desk. They just hadn't entered it yet. It was sent in plenty of time and they don't allow you to pay online. That's going to be a concern for me. There's going to have to be many reminders and notes and bells. Maybe make Alexa, I shouldn't say that so loud. Oh, she didn't wake up, but make her remind me on days when to send stuff. But no, the schedule is, I am rambling so much tonight. The schedule is like a lifesaver for me, having things broken up, things that need to be done. But I wouldn't say anything's necessarily prioritized. Okay, cooking is not a priority for me. It needs to start being, because turns out I did my budget recently, which if you've not done, you should definitely do that too. Did a budget, and I can't believe how much money we spend eating out because I don't cook. And yeah, that's going to change. I cannot keep spending that kind of money on stupid crap. So, yeah, I would say walking or exercising and cooking, all of those things, practicing violin, end up being not super high on the priority list. But since I made the schedule, I'm fitting them in more. Like I fit walking in on a regular basis. I fit a lot of stuff because I made a schedule. So the way that I do that is just doing the schedule, and now I have to add cooking. Apparently I found that out yesterday. I was already planning on doing that in the new kitchen, but yeah. So way too many words that mean nothing to anybody. So let's move on. Sorry, rambling again. Why can't I just answer things in an easy way? Like the answer to yours is I made a schedule. So easy. And then instead I'm going to give you my life freaking story. Sorry about that. Let's see. Down on the forum, CEO, cool blinds work. You may need some curtains or soft material for absorbing sound in your studio and office. Yes, actually, that's a concern of mine. I have to get some more area rugs. That I've got one in here that I'm going to use. This one will probably go in my office, and then I've got to put another one in there. Yeah, that's gonna take some trial and error to figure out how to get audio right in there, because we don't have carpet anywhere. It's all the wood look tile. So figuring out sounds is definitely going to be a challenge. And I think some of the curtains I pulled down yesterday, some are going in my bedroom because they've got like the blackout on the back of them, even though I've never closed them or used them as that. But I will now in my bedroom. And then I think in the office, and those colors should work out really well if they fit those windows. When we go on Sunday, I've got to measure and see what'll work. But yeah, those, if I wasn't already considering putting those curtains in the office, you just convinced me that needs to happen, because that would definitely help with the sound. And I'm not sure how recording is going to go in there. That's all going to be new for me to figure out audio with that for sure. Ursi said, fabulous touch to painting with the light strokes. Wow, thank you. Yeah, it makes a big difference. And I'll do that through all of these, you know, put little highlights here and there on some of them. Now, another tip I do have with this, don't try to make them all look exactly the same. Like this one has some little lines coming down. This one comes down in the middle a little. This one has a little squiggle. Don't try to shade every rock or every pebble looking exactly the same. The highlights exactly the same. The shadows exactly the same. It's too uniform looking. Let it be natural. Some of them, the shadow comes up higher. Some of it, you know, get variation in there. Whenever you're working with anything with nature, you want variation. You want variation in your brushstroke, variation in the shape. Variation is a big deal. Angela said, well, he's afraid I'm going to glaze and not mix paint right and make my project disappear. Is it better to go heavier with water to paint and be really thin and keep layering to improve? When you're first starting, I mean, don't put so much pressure on yourself for sure when you first start. But what I will generally do, let's say I mixed, we'll do an example really quick. I'll show you how easy this is to fix. Hold on, paintbrushes. Apparently we're gonna go a tiny bit long tonight because I think this is actually a cool thing to show you. Grab a couple of paintbrushes. So I'm going to have, oh, this one's better. I'm going to have a paintbrush that I'm going to glaze and go too heavy on. I'm going to have a paintbrush that I'm going to fix that with. So what I do when I'm mixing this, so let's say I'm going to use this green, which is probably not the right color, so I'm going to have to remove this anyway because it is not the color that I want. Let's pull that. Actually, that's a little bit opaque, but I'll pull a little in it anyway, muddy it up. So let's say this is the glaze that I did, and I go and paint over it, and I realize, oh my gosh, too dark. Actually, that's not too dark. It would totally work. I'm going to take a clean brush with water when I realize, oh, I screwed that up, do not like, and I'm just going to remove it. And when you remove it, you're thinning it out. If you choose to just leave it like this, now that it's thinned out, you absolutely could do that, or you can continue to lift it until you get all of that off. Now, if your painting underneath is very, very thin, or if it's not dry all the way, be careful because you can lift some of that off. You can kind of scrub it off if you scrub too hard. But yeah, that is pretty much, you know, just remove it if you don't like it. And see how right now it already has a little bit of a glaze. I can leave that there. I don't even need to erase it all the way because I've got to put one on later anyway. But you can fix things. Don't feel like you can't fix it. Now, the way that I was layering and glazing and blending, not glazing, the way that, God, I hate words tonight. The way that I did this with the water in the liner brush, very, very thin. So if I scrub too much removing the paint, I can remove some of that. Even here, I scrubbed a little bit too hard. I removed some of that. I'll probably touch those up a bit, but it's going to be toned down anyway, just from having the blue over it. But do be careful with that. If you added a lot of water and you do that scrubbing to remove something, even if it's dry, you can remove some of that if you've added a lot of water underneath. So it's just something to be aware of. It's not ruined or anything. I mean, once varnish is over, even if you've thinned it out a lot, it's never coming up once the varnish is on. But when you do that scrubby thing I just did, don't scrub too hard or you can kind of start removing some stuff. Let's see. And then in this case, and that's if you went too heavy. If you go too thin, it's just annoying. You just have to let it dry and put another layer on top. Let's see. Elaine said, sure. Oh, did I miss one? Oh. I'm missing a bunch of questions. Hold on just a second. Okay, here we go. Amber said, do you have any art friends in real life? I'm in desperate need of people to share art with, so I recently joined an art group at a local studio. That's a really cool thing to do. Yeah, I've actually got a lot of friends who paint. None that are local to me that paint professionally. Paintbrushes. New conspiracy theory, there's a ghost in my studio because a paintbrush just went flying. I mean, it's entirely possible. My hand just waved and knocked it off, but I'm going to go with ghost. Anyway, no, I have friends that are professional artists and YouTubers. That's really helpful. That I do talk to on a regular basis, but not local to me. But as far as local, yeah, I've got a few friends out here, but like I said, none of them that are professional artists. So I talk to people online who are, which is always helpful. But I like the idea of joining the art group at that studio. That's really cool. I used to go to an art guild in Southern California called, what was it? Inland Empire Art Association, I think. I used to be a member of that years ago. I don't live in California anymore. It's pointless for me to be a member. Amber said, do you have any art? Oh, I answered that one. Nick said, thanks for the timely tips tonight. Now I can stop bugging you. I'm trying to think of more for you, Nick. And it's funny. I love that you just started with acrylics because it helps me to... plane is loud. It helps me to keep that in mind even more so when I'm painting. I'm like, what would this help Nick with? Which means it helps other people who are new too. So it's been good for me to kind of reset my brain on teaching a little bit more basics to somebody just, to everybody who's just starting. So you starting to paint, Nick, are helping, I'm sure, lots of people, because now my brain is thinking, what will help Nick? Okay, let's see. Elaine said, Jordan Page has awesome videos on budgets and planning. I should look that up. Angela Clark said, I'm not saying her name now, the Amazon thing, and mine woke up. She's so sensitive. Mine didn't even wake up. She would say it if I was loud, but not, or no, if I was quiet, but not if I don't know. It's too hard to talk. Sorry for anyone's Amazon device I woke up. Elaine said, and Jordan talks about grocery shopping and planning meals too. Oh, that's cool. I will have to look that up. Definitely. Thank you. Let's see. We have Jessie said, I just can't wait to see how crazy you aquascape when you get your new aquarium. I was going to go pretty crazy on that one, and I don't know that I am now. I mean, it'll be aquascaped, obviously, but I don't think I wanted to do this whole surreal look with it. But now, and that's when I would have needed a much larger tank to make that happen. And now I'm like, you know what? I think 40 gallons good for me. I don't need that big, 40 or 50 max. And I don't know that that's really enough space to allow the coral to grow, but still have this kind of weird surreal feel. I'm going to have to think on that one a bit harder. Because I had wanted to grow green star polyps mostly on the bottom. But now that I've been growing green star polyps, I realize they really want a lot more flow. But if I also have sand on part, it would kick up the sand if the flow is strong enough for the green star polyps, where the way I was going to do. I don't know, basically. I don't think it's going to be too impressive. It'll be pretty, but I don't think it'll be super, creative like I initially planned. Let's see. Joseph said, making a mistake doesn't mean you've ruined it. It just means you've not finished it yet. Lisa Claw, yes, that is yes, that is correct. I say it all the time, huh? Let's see. Glenn said, get sound foam for the walls around the mic. I might. I don't know. Well, that's kind of my backup plan if it ends up being too echoey. It also costs money, and I'm apparently out of it now. So thanks, closing costs. So yeah, I'm definitely going to have to do some research, because I've seen some really cool things that YouTubers do that really make a difference on the sound. So I'm, over time, definitely going to be doing stuff like that, but I don't know how long that'll take me. Beck said, I know you have probably said it, but what is this painting going to be of? I don't think I even said it tonight. This one is going to be the Aquashella logo. And then one of the two people, the two founders or two people who put on Aquashella, Sean, he is snails as his thing. Sean Snails is his handle on Instagram and stuff. So it's going to have the Aquashella logo kind of embedded into the sand, or it fell to the bottom of the ocean, and a snail's going to be crawling on it. And the inside of the snail shell will be that inside portion of the Aquashella logo. So it's all based around that. So it's just a gift. Let's see. Glenn said, okay, well, I did that one and I can't read. Angela said, you said varnish. What do you use to varnish your acrylic paintings? Also, I have birds and I worry about what to use in the house. You can use the stinky stuff in another room, but if you can smell it in the other room, it's too strong. My birds are in a completely different area. It's going to even be better in the new house, but a completely different area from where I paint. Chicken doesn't come in here if I've been painting at all. So that's, yes, you do want to be concerned with that. With acrylics though, with the varnish, I just use the Liquitex gloss varnish. That one I really like. And I'll usually use, is it the matte spray? I don't have it in front of me, so I don't remember the Krylon matte or something like that. I'll do a really light layer of that sometimes and then put the varnish on top. If it's a painting that has a real light background with dark next to it, because the varnish on its own, I found when I paint, sometimes it'll smudge the paint. So if I've airbrushed or done light layers, or even the dark layers I've had it happen, is if it's next to a light layer, it had smudged on top of the white. So using the Krylon, I have a video, if you look up, it should be on the front page of my page or thing, or look up Lachri and varnish acrylics, that'll pull up. But I'll do a light spray of that, and then the Liquitex gloss varnish. If it's a painting that doesn't have a lot of light that darks could smudge into and be super obvious, then sometimes with that, I'll just put the gloss varnish on by itself and not worry about it. But for example, I've got a flamingo over here outlined in black. It's like a pop art style, and it has a lot of white in the background. That I'm going to just 100% spray varnish that. I'm going to get a high gloss varnish for that one. It's just too much that could ruin the look of if I smudge the paint at all. But normally Liquitex gloss varnish, but yeah, watch the video, because I'm not making any sense to myself. I'm definitely not making sense to anyone else. Let's see. I don't know why I keep answering questions, because I'm just rambling and I'm nonsense right now. Let's see. We have Heather said, Denise Sodden from In Liquid Color is in Texas and somewhere near you, I think. Oh, really? I don't know. I don't watch many art videos. Can you tell? That's cool. I should look up who she is. Jesse said, just don't accidentally buy a 160-gallon aquarium. No, 160 would not fit. I've got like a very specific space in the office where this aquarium is going to go. So no, a 160 would definitely not fit. I thought initially I wanted to go that big, and then the more time has gone on, I'm like, I don't want to do the maintenance on something that large. So no, we'll go smaller. I need a tank big enough that my clownfish, because clownfish actually get kind of, they can get big. I'd like them to have a tank that they can live a long, long time in. And so I think a 40 would be a good one for them. I don't want very many fish, just little guys. Mainly the clowns are my main fish. So yeah, I don't think I would have an accident like that. Hopefully. Let's see. Down on the farm studio said, made a mini recording studio around my mic. We have wood floors, walls, furniture, etc. I used fancy pillows with printed pictures and giant stuffed animals to surround the mic. That would definitely work. Yeah, just anything. It'll take me a while because I've got to save for a while to get caught up on just having a savings after all of banks closing. So, stupid closing costs. Anyway, so that will, oh yeah, this is about over. My back is killing me. Yes, it is in my future. But I could use stuffed animals and such in the meantime. That's not a bad idea. Yeah, Jesse says water changes would be a killer. You know, it's funny though, the bigger the tank, the more stable the tank is as far as like water chemistry. So they usually will recommend nothing smaller than a 40. I've got a 13.5 gallon. So the nano, you have more fluctuations and things that aren't as easy to keep stable. So the bigger, the 160 water changes would be killer, but the tank it would be more stable. So it's not all bad going bigger. Okay, we're done. I don't even know how to wrap this up. We're done. Thank you for joining. Oh, I'm a jerk. Check out the moderators' channels. I should have mentioned that earlier. Links are in the video description. They both have art channels here on YouTube, both Joseph and Nick. Super helpful. And, just tell them thank you anyway for helping. But check out their channels. Definitely subscribe to them. And thank you for watching. I don't know what next week will be. I can't even begin to have a clue or idea. Words. I give up. I'm done. Okay, I'll see you guys next week.